Chapter 2477. A competition of speed. You should not have declined, said Fan Jianxian coldly. Don't tell me, you really think you're qualified to be my teacher? Scoffed Jian Wushuang. In Saint's tomb, Crimson Stone Saint wanted to take him as his personal disciple so much that he even offered to give him extremely attractive benefits. But Jian Wushuang was not interested at all. Who did Fan Jianxian think he was? That's also true. However, since you're not my disciple, you'll have to die today. Fan Jianxian still sounded cold. Just as his voice faded, Fan Jianxian's pale hand had reached for the green sword behind his back. Shuang! As the long sword was unsheathed, a bolt of stunning sword essence shot through the void, as though a gigantic dragon had woken up. Fan Jianxian single-handedly swung the green sword and swept sideways. Whoosh! A piercing green sword light furiously sliced towards Jian Wushuang. Air was being split open wherever it swung by, and suffocated those surrounding experts with its terrifying power. Jian Wushuang remained at the same spot, and watched as the green sword came at him. However, he had no intention of dodging, but to fend off with his own sword. It was not until when the green sword light arrived 3 meters before him that Jian Wushuang suddenly took action. His right hand formed a claw grip as a mixture of surging divine powers and sword essences gathering in his palm. In the blink of an eye, his hand had already held onto the incoming sword light and squeezed it really hard. The green sword light, which almost made all those surrounding experts suffocate, had exploded under Jian Wushuang's squeeze. Countless green sword lights were dispersed in every direction. An attack at this level is quite insufficient to kill me. Wu Jinshuang continued to stand there with a smile. However, those divine demons around were already stunned beyond words. They were already incredibly shocked when Jian Wushuang grabbed 2 Qiancheng's sword light. However, the person who just issued that attack was a legitimate ultimate god expert. Even though the ultimate god had not unleashed his full power, that casually released sword light, which was already incredibly powerful, was neutralized by a bare-handed Jian Wushuang and squeezed till it exploded. That ability, as expected, you're already equipped with an ultimate god's battle strength. Moreover, your body is also extraordinarily strong. Fan Jianxian's face was cold and expressionless, even though Jian Wushuang had squeezed his sword light. After all, that sword strike was only casually issued just to test out Jian Wushuang's true abilities. The test results were clear. Regardless, whether your battle strength is merely comparable to ultimate god, even if you really are an ultimate god expert, you are still going to die, because you killed my personal disciple. Fan Jianxian's eyes shot out a cold light. With a huge noise, his sword essence shot up into the sky. Fan Jianxian's figure was moving mysteriously under the infinite sword essences. Similar to teleportation, Fan Jianxian's figure appeared in front of Jian Wushuang as he thrust out his green-colored long sword. The strike silently instantly stabbed through Jian Wushuang's body and exited from the other side. So fast, those many experts around were shocked by watching the battle. Did Jian Wushuang die? No, that can't be. Those divine demons' faces changed. Fan Jianxian's pupil slightly shrunk as well, because the Jian Wushuang that he stabbed had gradually disappeared. Space-time shadow? No, a space-time shadow wouldn't be able to escape my soul power's scrutiny. That was not a shadow, it's a space-time apparition. A piercing light flashed in Fan Jianxian's eyes. Space-time apparitions were something that could only be formed by possessing an extremely high understanding of the space-time law and reaching the first stage. What Jian Wushuang just formed was a space-time apparition, something completely different from the space-time shadow he had formed a while ago. This kid has reached such a high level of understanding towards space-time law. Fan Jianxian also felt incredibly shocked. The difficulty of understanding laws only got harder with each increasing stage. In normal circumstances, the first stage of law understanding was something very difficult to achieve, even for a regular ultimate god. For example, Fan Jianxian was still a far cry from reaching the first stage of law understanding. However, Jian Wushuang had obviously achieved the first stage of space-time law since he could so easily form an apparition. He might even be quite skillful in that stage. Jian Wushuang was on a higher level than him, when it came to the understanding of laws. Ring. A soft ring sliced through the air. The ring was very soft and might even be unnoticeable to first-class and peak divine demons. However, Fan Jianxian had super sharp senses. As the ringing started, he did a backhand with his sword, leaving a strange trace in the void, before suddenly retracting the tip of his sword from the void. Previously, there was nothing in that part of the void, but when the sword tip retracted, a cold crimson-colored long sword appeared, and along with it was Jian Wushuang's figure. Clank. Jian Wushuang's figure vanished once again. Oh, competing in speed? Do you think I would be worried? Fan Jiangxian's eyes projected a coldness as his figure shook and vanished. In the middle of the battlefield, both Jian Wushuang and Fan Jianxian exploded with great speeds. Two ghastly figures flashing repeatedly in the void. Every time the surrounding speculators saw their figures flashed, they had already appeared in another part of the void. They would appear 1,000 meters above in one moment, and on the ground by the next, while causing explosions with every clash. Those two figures mysteriously intertwined. Nobody could catch where the figures would appear next, as they could only see violent flashes of sword lights sweeping willfully. On the glade, those sex experts and their disciples were stunned to the core. Goodness, this is what true speed looks like. We divine demons are very fast as well, but it's incomparable to this. Be grateful that we didn't continue attacking Jian Wushuang, or else he would have slaughtered all of us as easy as lifting a finger just by relying on his terrifying speed. Ultimate God. This is an ultimate God. Countless experts exclaimed in awe. Those disciples from various sects all showed fanatical and excited expressions. It was the first time for most of them to witness a battle on the ultimate God level. The most unbelievable part was that one of those ultimate gods was a disciple just like them, visiting Saint's tomb to look for opportunities. Chapter 2478. Sword World. Junior brother Wushuang could actually evenly fight with Fan Jianxian? That isn't just anyone, that's Fan Jianxian. Zhongyi Su Tong and the rest of Narcissus Island disciples could only widen their eyes in shock. Of the three Narcissus Island elders, Elder Wujian's face turned blue, while Elder Lingyi and the seventh elder faces were filled with shock. In the battlefield's center, the two were frantically flashing with each of them, wanting to suppress the other with their speed. Fan Jianxian, your moving technique is pretty good. Jian Wushuang slightly smiled. Don't dream of surpassing me just because you have a higher understanding in space-time law, scoffed Fan Jianxian. He might be below Jian Wushuang when it comes to the understanding of laws. However, he possessed a set of secret techniques on movement skills. With those secret techniques, he could unleash his ultimate speed, which was definitely comparable to Jian Wushuang's speed. As their speeds were about the same, they could only compete on sword principles. Ring. Jian Wushuang held his sword with one hand and swung it at will, chopping, stabbing and sweeping, fully displaying his understanding of sword principles. As for Fan Jianxian, he was called Sword Immortal One, and was also the #1 sword cultivator of the Wuxia wilderness. Hence his accomplishments were evidently extremely high. He was shrouded by heaven-shaking sword essences, appearing like the dictator of sword principles, while displaying his swift and incomparably overpowering sword techniques. Attack. Non-stop attacks. Fan Jiangxian's sword technique had a different yet similar style to Purple Blood Saint's, which leaned more on the one extremities. He attacked in a frenzy with his sword technique, maniacally oppressive, and not leaving any breathing space for Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was able to face those attacks quite calmly in the beginning. However, after a short while, he began to be on the losing side and making passive defenses. I'm not as skilled as he is with sword principles. A head-to-head battle puts me at a disadvantage, Jian Wushuang told himself. It was understandable, as Jian Wushuang may have lived a rather long life in his previous lifetime, but he did not spend much time on sword principles. Even though he was advancing at an incredible speed, his current life's time span was too short, and he was also too young. It was only through various opportunities obtained in Saint's tomb that allowed him to reach complete sword principle realm. However, Fan Jianxian had made a name for himself for a long time. His understanding of the sword had reached complete sword principle realm, and was already at an extremely high level a long time ago. Fan Jianxian was also very skillful when it came to close-quarter combat. Hence, it was only normal for Jian Wushuang to be at a disadvantage purely from a sword technique standpoint. However, right at that moment, ring! Jian Wushuang's figure blurred, and suddenly 3 Jian Wushuangs appeared. Apparitions. It was still a space-time apparition. The only difference was that Jian Wushuang could form a total of 2 apparitions. Together with his true self, it looked like there were 3 Jian Wushuangs. 2 great apparitions? Fan Jianxian's face immediately changed. Forming a space-time apparition was the first sign of one reaching the first stage of space-time law understanding. In Saint's Tomb, Jian Wushuang's understanding of space-time law was already infinitely close to the first stage of apparition forming before studying the Fengtian scroll. The Fengtian scroll was an immense help to him. By borrowing the secrets which Fengtian scroll had revealed to him, he gained huge advancement after 10 days despite studying sword techniques, space-time law, and transmigration at the same time. With regards to space-time law, he was not only able to step into the first stage and form his first apparition, but he was also able to form the second one as well. It showed that he had gained an extraordinary understanding regarding the first stage of space-time law. Every time he gained one more space-time apparitions, it greatly increased his speed. As such, when Jian Wushuang formed 2 apparitions at the same time, his speed had suddenly increased a great deal. Whoosh! 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 Jian Wushuang's figure flashes continuously, while his Blood Mountain sword had shifted from defense to offense, and repeatedly attacked Fan Jianxian. Damn, his speed is a lot faster than before. Fan Jianxian's face turned gloomy. He had initially successfully suppressed Jian Wushuang with his sword technique, and that was also based on the fact that they were on a similar level of speed. However, Jian Wushuang was currently moving around Fan Jianxian and completely avoiding head-to-head combat, since the great increase in his speed. He was looking for the right opportunities to attack at this moment. It mattered not how skillful Fan Jianxian was with his sword, when he could not even touch Jian Wushuang at this point. Scram! Fan Jianxian growled quietly as a flourishing white light was suddenly released from his body. The extremely blinding white light had lit up heaven and earth. In fact, it was a frosty cold sword light that frenzy projected its attack in every direction. Jian Wushuang's figure was forced back by the sword light, and the 2 of them once again widened their distances from each other. Jian Wushuang, I truly have underestimated you. Fan Jianxian stared at Jian Wushuang with a heavy expression on his face. Even though he held back a little, a simple clashing of swords showed him that Jian Wushuang's true abilities were not to be taken lightly. You have a very high understanding of sword principles, but based on the understanding of laws, you're below me. Show me your strongest ability. Otherwise, your reputation as the #1 sword cultivator of Wuxia wilderness would have to be given to me. Jian Wushuang smiled. As you wish. Fan Jianxian did not waste any more words as a strong light grew in his eyes. Ring, shapeless sword essences swept out from Fan Jianxian's body. However, what surprised everyone was that sweeping sword essence had then turned solid. The wall of sword essence swept into every direction like a gigantic domain, almost shrouded the entire battle in an instant. The dreamlike sword essence was like an ocean filling every corner. Fan Jianxian stood in the epicenter of the sword essence ocean like a dictator of sword principles. This is Sword World. Jian Wushuang felt the ocean of infinity sword essences around him, and his pupils suddenly shrunk. Sword World, the first stage of sword principles understanding. The realm of swords. This stage required forming a sword world within one's own body. Once the sword world was completed, it would be one with heaven and earth. During future battles, one could then bring out the sword world from inside their body and suppress their opponent. The sword essence ocean that swept out of Fan Jianxian was clearly a sword world. Fan Jianxian, he had already formed his own sword world. Jian Wushuang also felt rather stunned. He had studied Purple Blood Saint's understanding of sword principles in detail, and knew how difficult it was to build his own sword world. According to the Purple Blood Saint's words, Sword World was extremely difficult to develop even among ultimate gods. There were only a few people who could barely develop their own Sword World. All of them had very strong capabilities and were extremely talented in sword principles. However, Jian Wushuang had not expected Fan Jianxian to have that kind of capability. He had become a perfect chaotic creature when he advanced from the chaotic realm to second-class divine demon, during which his divine powers were refined from his transcendence and morphing. In addition, the divine powers in his primordial void celestial body had also been increased. When he completely unleashed his divine power, Jian Wushuang would not be weaker than a regular ultimate god. In fact, he even felt that his divine power could be slightly stronger than regular ultimate gods. Due to that fact, he had held back his divine power and only unleashed 70% of it when clashing with Fan Jianxian a while ago. However, he was currently unleashing 100% of it. Regardless of how strong Jian Wushuang could be, he was probably only in the divine demon realm in the end. However, as the battle carried on to that point, nobody could be certain about Fan Jianxian being the victor anymore. The battle strength that Jian Wushuang displayed was truly not below that of Fan Jianxian. Everyone stared at both of them as the battlefield quieted down. Right at that moment, there were some slight changes to Jian Wushuang's expression. The corner of his lips curved slightly upwards as he wore a mysterious smile. The number 1 sword cultivator of Wuxia Wilderness is only so-so. Right when his voice faded, a big gulp of blood shot out of Fan Jianxian's mouth and spilled all over the ground. Fan Jianxian was pale to begin, but his face had turned deadly white now. The breath of his divine power had also sharply decreased. The sight of that shuddered everyone on the scene. He lost. Fan Jianxian has been defeated. The number 1 sword cultivator actually lost to Jian Wushuang, who was still merely a divine demon? Oh heavens! From today onwards, the title of Wuxia Wilderness number 1 sword cultivator would have to change its owner. The experts were wearing all kinds of expressions on their faces, with many of them feeling agitated. Fan Jianxian had become a legend very early on. However, someone had stepped violently on the legend that day. By stepping on the legend himself, he became the new number 1 sword cultivator. It was none other than Jian Wushuang. How's that possible? Long Zishan, Yu Ouching, and many people from Narcissus Island were all shocked beyond words. They almost could not believe what they had just witnessed. Especially Narcissus Island's elder Lingyi and the 7th elder. They secretly felt regretful for agreeing with the Lord's decision to abandon Jian Wushuang now. However, it was too late. On the edge of the battlefield, although Fan Jianxian was badly injured, he was not dead yet. He stuffed 2 elixirs into his mouth, and as those elixirs went down, the paleness on his face slightly faded away. Afterward, he once again looked at Jian Wushuang with mixed feelings. Unexpectedly, you don't only have an incredibly deep understanding of space-time law, your understanding of transmigration law was not bad either, and had reached the first stage. In addition, that strike which you created by combining transmigration law and your own sword skill was truly powerful. Fan Jianxian was extraordinarily skillful with the sword, but even he had to admit the strike Jian Wushuang last shown was truly remarkable and strong. Judging purely from the power of that final strike, it was even slightly stronger than his own most powerful strike. I have nothing to say about losing to you. From now on, the number 1 sword cultivator of Wuxia Wilderness is you. Fan Jianxian seemed to have lost all his pride as an ultimate god expert before Jian Wushuang. Chapter 2481. The 3 Supreme Elders hum. 2 figures slowly stepped out of the spatial passage when it appeared. One of them was a 2 meters tall, brawny elder with long purple hair. His towering figure stood there like a mountain. The brawny elder had black thunderbolts flashing around his body, which made him look exceptionally sturdy and formidable. The other person was a slender young woman completely shrouded in a black robe. The pretty young woman stood there without making a sound, as if she had turned into darkness. The people on the glade turned tumultuous when they saw those 2 arrived. Ultimate gods. 2 ultimate gods. These 2 are the other 2 supreme elders of the Great Compassion sect. The black-robed woman was in Junju. I heard she's a killer and the top assassin in the Wuxia wilderness. However, after she became a supreme elder a long time ago, she had stopped doing that. Otherwise, anyone could hardly survive after being targeted by her. The purple long-haired elder is the tyrannical Lei Chong, who was also a reputable ultimate god super expert in the Wuxia wilderness. Lei Chong, and Junju and Fan Jianxian, all the three supreme elders of Great Compassion sect are here? A series of exclamations broke out from the crowd. The various sects' divine demons experts shuddered. Ultimate gods were highly exalted in Wuxia wilderness. It was usually extremely difficult to even see an ultimate god. No wonder everyone was in a stupor when they saw three ultimate gods appearing together. Those three ultimate gods were there for Jian Wushuang alone. You are here? That's quick. Jian Wushuang stood there watching the arrival of Junju, and Lei Chong with a hint of excitement in his eyes. Along with Fan Jianxian, I hope these three will not let me down. Jian Wushuang's fighting spirit had explosively risen in his heart. The three supreme elders of the Great Compassion sect had soon gathered together. Brother Jianxian, are you injured? What's the matter? Lei Chong asked. The supreme elders had addressed each other as brothers and sisters. It's Jian Wushuang. Not only did he possess the power of an ultimate god, but his combat skills are also at the peak of the ultimate god realm. I was careless and got accidentally injured when I fought against him. It's him. Lei Chong glanced over at Jian Wushuang. He's only a divine demon, a second-class divine demon to be precise. Could he possibly have the combat prowess of an ultimate god? And Juju was surprised. Don't underestimate him. His strength and capabilities are not confined to his cultivation level. Besides, he has an extremely high understanding of laws. Not only can he appear in 2 hologram images using the space-time law, but he has also mastered the first stage of transmigration law. His sword skills are comparable to mine, Fan Jianxian explained solemnly. It's strange that he did not try to escape, even after knowing I've sent a message to both of you. I believe he must have some strong backing, which he hasn't revealed yet. Lei Chong's expression was cold. Strong backing? No matter who or what that is, he will have to die for hurting you and killing so many Great Compassion sect's genius disciples. Let's act together and kill him. Following Lei Chong's stern orders, the three supreme elders of the Great Compassion sect concurrently took action. A majestic sword intent rose as Fan Jianxian displayed his sword world once again. Although the sword world was only a shell, it had a repression effect on Jian Wushuang. While the sword world rolled out, Junior brother Fan, it'll help you, said Junju, who waved while being shrouded in a black robe. A stream of dark air current instantly welling up from her body, before shot out in all directions at an astonishing speed. The dark air currents soon enveloped the entire battlefield, and formed a huge dark domain before combining with the sword world, and crashing down on Jian Wushuang. This move, Jian Wushuang's eyes flickered. He recognized the technique performed by Junju, when the few Great Compassion sect's genius disciples besieged him in Saint's tomb. Yu Aoqing, one of the 12 minor kings, had performed the exact same move. However, Yu Aoqing's move was obviously not at the same power level as Junju's. Junju was Yu Aoqing's master after all, and had taught Yu Aoqing that technique. The combination of the sword world and the dark domain had greatly oppressed Jian Wushuang. The three supreme elders made their moves and attacked Jian Wushuang, with Lei Chong leading the attack. It was 3 against 1. The various sects experts who acted as spectators had a strange expression on their faces. In their opinion, Jian Wushuang's strength was incredible nonetheless, but his age and cultivation level were still rather young. However, those 3 Great Compassion sect's supreme elders had joined forces against Jian Wushuang despite having lived for such a long time. Such bullying behavior was rather embarrassing. Then again, the world was never fair in the first place. Only strength and power were acknowledged. The Great Compassion sect's background and strength were acknowledged. So no one present dared to say anything even if they thought those 3 supreme elders were bullying the younger generation. Thunder exterminate. Majestic black thunderbolts pervaded Lei Chong. Under the guidance of his finger, the black thunderbolts in the void formed 9 black dragons. Each of those 9 dragons contained terrifying world destruction powers. On the command of Lei Chong, those 9 dragons roared and attacked Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang remained calm and advanced forward as the 9 dragons headed for him. Swash! 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 9 horrifying sword lights appeared at the same time, and each of them decapitated one of those 9 dragons' heads. Those 9 dragons could barely even put up a struggle before collapsing instantly. I must say, that was rather powerful, but my moves aren't as simple as it seems either. Lei Chong's eyes were cold as he stared ahead. A large number of black thunderbolts rolled out, and instantly formed a black hell after the 9 dragons' collapse, trapping Jian Wushuang within it. Following that, a large number of black thunderbolts blasted upon Jian Wushuang. Chapter 2482. Fighting against 3 ultimate gods, each of those black thunderbolts bombarded Jian Wushuang's divine body. If it was an ordinary divine demon, those black thunderbolts would have instantly pulverized his body. However, Jian Wushuang's divine body was the most perfect divine body that only a perfect chaotic creature could possess. The black thunderbolts did no harm to his body. Humph! Letting out a cold and derisive snort, he discharged his majestic divine power and crushed those black thunderbolts into debris. Jian Wushuang was suddenly alarmed. He had similar feelings before in the saint's tomb, when Yu Aoqing planned her attack during the siege. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang disappeared, and an apparition took the place where his previously physical body was. Chug! The void was torn apart as a sharp dagger directly passed through Jian Wushuang's apparition. A shrouded black-robed Junju unexpectedly appeared in the void. She was the one who stabbed the dagger. An apparition? Junju squinted her beautiful eyes. Indeed, it's you. Your skills are much more sophisticated than Yu Aoqing, but it's a pity I won't fall for the same trick twice. Jian Wushuang's figure appeared in a void not far away with a grin on his face. Earlier at Saint's tomb, Jian Wushuang was not able to escape from Yu Aoqing's perfect sudden attack. If it were not because of his invincible divine body, he would have perished. Even though Junju had the perfect timing and technique, Jian Wushuang was no longer the same as before. His ability to perceive danger had improved by multiple folds, allowing him to detect Junju's assassination move far in advance. Don't be too happy. Junju glanced at Jian Wushuang coldly. In a flash, the dark air current circulating around produced identical figures. 2 figures stood side by side, each holding a dagger, and aimed violently at Jian Wushuang. This is the Dark Clone. Jian Wushuang was amazed. The Dark Clone was an ability acquired when the one reached a rather high level in understanding the law of darkness. Junju had obviously attained that ability with her high understanding of the law. Exterminate! Jian Wushuang raised his sword with a backhand motion. The sword technique impelled space-time and caused ripples to form in the surrounding void. That was his space-time sword technique, first form cutting snow. 2 dark clones were immediately smashed by Jian Wushuang's sword. Jian Wushuang! A loud roar sounded abruptly, and Fan Jianxian appeared next to Jian Wushuang. His face was stern as the green long sword in his hand turned into a steel whirlwind. Swoosh! 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 A series of sword shadows were attacking Jian Wushuang from multiple tricky angles. Jian Wushuang had just defeated the 2 dark clones, and was recovering from the suppression of both sword world and dark air currents. The sudden attack from Fan Jianxian had caught him off guard. However, he was able to regain his composure very quickly. Piss off, my defeated opponent. Jian Wushuang's long sword thrust forward with the strength of Samsara, as he performed Transmigration Sword Technique. Second form, Samsara Empty Strike. Interchanging between the palpable and imperceptible moments, it was hard to see which sword moves were real, and which were just an illusion. Fan Jianxian contracted his iris to stay focused. He was wounded by Jian Wushuang before. Although he recovered a fair bit after swallowing the elixir pills, his combat power was nowhere at his peak. He dared not let down his guard, and exhausted his strength to resist that attack when faced with Jian Wushuang's sword, causing his body to be expelled to some distance away. Right then, an extremely terrifying and violent aura came from above Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang raised his head, only to find Lei Chong had somehow appeared above him in the void. Lei Chong's body soared to a height of 5 meters with 2 large hammers in his hands. The 2 large hammers looked like 2 hills, and impelled the unabating power of black thunderbolts when being waved around. "Go to hell, brat!" Lei Chong descended like the god of thunder while yelling. The 2 large hammers in his hand were swinging around frantically, ready to slam down hard on Jian Wushuang. Rumbling, the heaven and earth growled fiercely under those 2 large hammers. Jian Wushuang knew it was too late for him to dodge, so he could only raise the sword in his hand and discharge an astonishing gush of divine powers to parry off the attack. However, with a loud bang, the heavens seemed to crack open, releasing waves of violent black world-destroying thunderbolts. After the loud noise, a stream of light slammed into the ground below like a meteorite. That stream of light was surprisingly Jian Wushuang. He was smashed into the ground by Lei Chong's 2 large hammers, and the ground suddenly shook as a huge pothole appeared. Before Jian Wushuang could stand up from the pothole, a surging amount of black thunderbolts formed around Lei Chong's body. Black thunderbolts explode. Kaboom! Along with the collision of 2 large hammers, huge black thunderbolts as thick as buckets descended. The huge black thunderbolt was aimed directly towards the pothole, where Jian Wushuang was located. Kaboom! The pothole and the entire surface of the ground were destroyed. The black thunderbolts covered the entire ground and destroyed everything. After a while, the black thunderbolts gradually dispersed. Somewhere above in the void, the trio, Lei Chong and Junju and Fan Jianxian stood side by side as they looked down below. "Is Jian Wushuang dead?" Fan Jianxian murmured. "Humph, if just based on attack power. I'm rather powerful and violent among many ultimate gods. This brat has been hit twice in succession. The last Black Thunderbolt's explosion move was extremely powerful. Even an ultimate god who suffered its frontal attack would be severely wounded if not killed. It would be hard for Jian Wushuang, who is just a divine demon, to resist that kind of impact," explained Lei Kuan scornfully. "No, we can't pass judgment based on common sense for Jian Wushuang. His divine body is invincible. Senior brother Lei, your 2 moves might not be able to kill him, but perhaps it's not a far cry to seriously injure him," said Fan Jianxian. "Let's see." And Junju seemed extremely cold. From around the battlefield, the various sex experts were also staring at the seemingly lifeless scorched earth that had been previously covered by those black thunderbolts. Jian Wushuang was in the hole. Everyone was curious if Jian Wushuang survived those brutal attacks. Suddenly, boom! Large rubbles were lifted up from the pit as a young figure stepped out of the debris and appeared in front of everyone. "Your thunderbolts were good enough to scratch my itch." Jian Wushuang looked up at the trio in the void while grinning from ear to ear. Chapter 2483. Destroyed. He's not dead. Lei Chong had lightning in his eyes. Not only is he not dead, but the breath of his divine power also has not weakened. "It seems he was unfazed," said Junju coldly. "This brat." Fan Jiangxian's expression was extremely ugly. On the ground, Jian Wushuang raised his head to look at the 3 ultimate gods above, and slowly receded his smile. Among the 3 ultimate god experts, Lei Chong's attack was brutal, and is the strongest among the 3. And Junju is good with the law of darkness and domain control. She is able to derive a clone of herself, and she also has perfect assassination skills. She is indeed someone extraordinary. Fan Jianxian appeared to be the weakest of them, murmured Jian Wushuang. "These 3 ultimate gods have joined forces, and it's indeed difficult for me to contend with them single-handedly." "If that is the case," Jian Wushuang's eyes were filled with a sharp glint. The stellar strength which had integrated into his divine Bodis blood and essence instantly surged and spread from within his body. 7 Stars Secret Technique, activate. The 7 Stars Secret Technique was one of the 5 most powerful secret techniques of the 7 Stars Black Sect. It was much more advanced than the Stellar Star Secret technique practiced by Jian Wushuang in his previous life. The Stellar Star Secret technique he performed in his past life was heaven-defying. However, without the will of Heaven Wei's influence, he would require a long recovery period before performing it again. On the other hand, the 7 Stars Secret technique was different. Once the 7 Stars Secret technique was refined and fully integrated with divine powers, As long as the cultivator had sufficient divine power, one could perform and repeat the technique over and over again without the need to take a break. Hence the reason it was considered one of the strongest secret technique of the Seven Stars Black Sect. Jian Wushuang began to execute the secret technique, with nothing holding him back. With the power of stellar strength, Jian Wushuang's divine power breath spread out at a speed visible to the naked eye. Initially, he had just crossed into the second-class divine demon realm. However, he soon progressed to peak of the second-class divine demon realm in a short time. He was only a small step away from becoming a first-class divine demon. Having made that achievement, he relaxed his pace a little. The peak of the second-class divine demon. Unfortunately, the first volume of the Seven Stars secret technique could merely help me improve by half a realm at most. If I can refine the second volume of the Seven Stars secret technique, I would be able to cross into first-class divine demon. Well, it's good enough. Jian Wushuang balled up his fists to examine his powers, and felt his divine powers improved quite a fair bit. At the same time, his majestic divine power burst out wildly from behind him, and in the blink of an eye, a huge golden god shadow was formed. The golden god shadow had then increased in volume, and risen to 900 feet from Jian Wushuang's realm improvement. The 900 feet of golden god shadow was very close to the divine god of punishment second stage, and could assist Jian Wushuang in his strength improvement. Using two major secret techniques simultaneously, Jian Wushuang's overall strength instantly rose to a whole new level. Now I can have a good fight with all of you. Jian Wushuang raised his head. His sharp eyes met the three ultimate gods above. Under his gaze, the three ultimate gods felt a tremendous pressure on them. This brat's divine power breath seems to have improved. Fan Jianxian commented. I felt it too. The golden god shadow of his seems to be powerful as well. And Junju looked solemn. No matter what trump card he has, we have three ultimate gods join forces. It should be enough to put up a fight. How can we be afraid of him? Lei Chong said coldly. Both Fan Jianxian and Junju nodded in agreement. At the very next moment, the sword world and dark domain once again oppressed Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently. It's that domain again. Do you think I don't have one? Now, I want to see whose domain is stronger. Jian Wushuang waved his large hands and several palm prints were sent directly towards the void ahead. The prison of punishment. Rumbling. The golden divine power suddenly erupted from the golden god shadow, and gushed from all directions at a terrifying speed. The surrounding world was originally covered in the dark air current domain of Junju. However, under the crazy impact of the golden divine powers, the dark air currents were retreating. In just an instant, the dark air current domain was shattered by the impact, and had completely collapsed. Did he just crush my domain? Even Junju was shocked to see what happened. After her domain collapsed, the golden divine power was still steady going forward, forming a huge golden divine power ocean that engulfed the entire battlefield in the blink of an eye. Thereafter, the golden divine power ocean transformed into a huge golden prison. This is the golden prison? Many various sects' genius disciples were shocked to see the scene. Most of them had seen the golden prison in Saint's tomb. None of the nearly 50 first-class divine demons, who tried to kill Jian Wushuang, had a chance to escape due to this infamous golden prison. They were either mercilessly slaughtered by Jian Wushuang, or they had to crush their safety token to escape from the tomb. The golden prison had reappeared once again. What was different from before was that the golden prison currently had three great compassionate sects supreme elders within it. Three ultimate gods. They were trapped inside the golden prison. Lei Chong and Junju and Fan Jianxian looked solemn. They did not take it lightly just because their opponent was a divine demon. Suddenly, boom! Following the control of Jian Wushuang's mind, the golden divine power swept across and acted on the bodies of those three ultimate gods. They instantly felt a huge mountain weighing billions of pounds was on top of them. The oppression had greatly reduced the power they could exert. This domain is much stronger than what I've displayed. And Junju said coldly. Be careful, Lei Chong added. Jian Wushuang, who was under their close observation, made a move. Swoosh. His figure flickered and left two apparitions in the void. The infinite sword intent discharged by Jian Wushuang was like a hungry and ferocious beast, as it lurched frantically towards its prey. "Look what I've got!" screamed Lei Chong. Black thunderbolts surged out of his body that had soared to a height of 5 meters, and formed a black thunderbolt prison of 100 meters diameter from him. He stamped his soul hard, and the void under his feet immediately cracked open, as he held a large hammer in both palms, and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Following that, his 2 large hammers were flung out. Chapter 2484, Destroyed 2. Star Thunderbolt Explode. Lei Chong's eyes flashed with dangerous murderous intent, as his 2 large hammers destroyed the world. Transmigration Sword Technique. Hateful Path Toward Heaven. Jian Wushuang's Blood Mountain sword swung around fiercely. Boom! The void was directly cut into half. Hate! 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 His sword light wantonly swept through the heaven with unrelenting hatred, and wherever the sword intent went past, it left a trail of ascent towards the way of heaven behind. That was the move that severely wounded Fan Jianxian earlier. The only difference was Jian Wushuang had superimposed that move with the 7 stars secret technique and divine god of punishment, increasing its power by multiple folds. 2 horrible blows of attacks collided. Head-on. Bang! The sword light hit the large hammer's surface and made a ringing sound, causing waves of invisible ripples to spread. The black thunderbolts around Lei Chong instantly dimmed, along with the surrounding black thunderbolt prison, which started falling apart. His figure propelled like a cannonball, and finally slammed hard on the golden prison's wall behind him. His divine body trembled and caved in from the impact as he spat out blood. Senior brother Lei Chong was defeated? And Junju and Fan Jianxian were shocked. Without warning, Jian Wushuang appeared next to Junju. And Junju was startled but not flustered. As her figure floated upward, dark air currents appeared in front of her and wrapped around Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang glanced at her coldly, and he swept the Blood Mountain sword in his hand around 3 times. Wham! A huge sword net emerged and slashed the dark air currents into pieces. Jian Wushuang took a step and sent out 2 apparitions at the same time to approach Junju through the dark air currents. A vague sword light swept out. The sword light was captivating like something that could only appear in a dreamland. The moment it appeared, space-time seemed to be completely frozen. Space-time sword technique first form cutting snow. No good. And Junju sensed danger. She was the Queen of Darkness, a killer and expert in dealing with fatal blows at perfect timings. However, she was not good at fighting head-on. With Jian Wushuang being so close to her, and his horrifying swordsmanship, she knew she could not escape. At the juncture of life and death, and Junju tried her best to move aside. Fortunately, she managed to avoid the deadly sword. However, Jian Wushuang maneuvered the sword light across with just a casual flick of his sword, and cut through Junzu's shoulder with the unique samsara strength. Chug! And Junzu's right arm flung out. Senior sister. Not far away, a shocked Fan Jianxian immediately turned into a stream of light and attacked Jian Wushuang. The green long sword in his hand discharged a shocking power that completely covered Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang glared at Fan Jianxian before waving his sword in anger and freed himself. He did not use any skills. It was just a plain chopping motion, but done with great strength. Clang! The sword intent around Fan Jianxian faded while his figure was also severely smashed against the gold prison's wall. In the blink of an eye, 3 supreme elders and 3 ultimate gods of the great compassionate sect were defeated. They hardly had any room to struggle before they were destroyed. My hand! And Junju retreated a distance away. She was shrouded in the darkness again, stared at her right shoulder, and began using her divine power to regrow a new arm. However, she was surprised by the presence of a unique divine power around the wound. It was a unique power called Transformation of Transmigration Law, which made her unable to regrow her arms. Losing an arm had sharply decreased her combat powers. Jian Wushuang acted, and was targeting Junju. Damn it! Junju wore an extremely ugly expression. If the 3 of you escape, what about the remaining Great Compassion Sect's genius disciples? And how could your Great Compassion Sect tame my anger? Lei Chong and the other two ultimate gods were startled when Jian Wushuang said so. On the glade, Great Compassion Sect's genius disciples, such as Long Zishan and Yu Aoqing, were bitterly disappointed. They discovered Jian Wushuang was very close to them. If Jian Wushuang took his anger out on them, they could possibly be instantly killed by Jian Wushuang with no room to struggle, as they were only disciples in the divine demon realm. Even Long Zishan and Yu Aoqing would never have any chance of surviving when facing Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, what exactly do you want to do? Lei Chong shouted loudly. What am I going to do? You have to ask yourself this question. Jian Wushuang's voice became cold. From the moment I stepped into the tomb, I did nothing wrong and had not provoked anyone. Despite that, the genius disciples in the tomb came after me again and again. First, Pang Tao forced me to surrender the sword principle opportunities that I've earned. After that, Pang Tao wanted to put me to death in the fight for the position token. Out of no choice, I had killed him. Subsequently, the Great Compassion Sect's genius disciples went berserk and wanted to kill me madly. Even after I came out of the tomb, your Great Compassion Sect was among the first to attack me. Tu Qiansheng, the 4 Great Peak Divine Demons, and lastly you 3 Supreme Elders. Have I ever provoked any of you? Now, isn't it ridiculous for you to ask me what I wanted to do? Jian Wushuang's voice echoed throughout the glade and shook the heavens. The various sects experts wore a strange look on their faces when they heard that. They thought about it carefully, and seemed that it was as Jian Wushuang had said, he did not provoke anyone. On the other hand, it was those greedy people who had actively sought trouble with Jian Wushuang. Apart from the Great Compassion Sect's disciples, other various sects' disciples were also beheaded by Jian Wushuang. After Jian Wushuang came out of the tomb, it was Tu Qiansheng and the others who picked a fight with Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang had been passive and merely fought for his life. In fact, Jian Wushuang suffered a big loss. In the distant void, those 3 ultimate gods were unsteady as they knew they were at fault. Lei Chong's voice eased. Jian Wushuang, this incident may have been started by the Great Compassion Sect, but you have killed many of our disciples who are genius disciples. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold. So what? I believe in the principle of doing good unto people who are good. If anyone offends me, I will pay back 100 or even 1,000 times worse. Chapter 2486, Explanation. Didn't you ask what I want to do? Let me tell you now. Jian Wushuang's voice was cold as it echoed throughout the world. Listen, I want you to think carefully after you go back, and give me an explanation which satisfies me and relieves me of anger. Otherwise, you'll have to pay the Great Compassion Sect a visit in person to ask for it. You may have a strong background, so strong I may not be able to do anything against you. However, mark my words, as long as my anger persists, I'll stay at the Great Compassion Sect's entrance and kill anyone who steps out of the sect until the last disciple and expert. How dare you? Lei Chong yelled furiously. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. Try me. In addition, my patience is limited. I'll give you 1 month's time at most. Within a month, if the Great Compassion Sect fails to give me a satisfactory explanation, I will do as I've said. Lei Chong's face was pale. Very well. Let's wait and see. Go, Lei Chong yelled. The Great Compassion Sect's 3 ultimate gods, as well as their disciples Long Zishan, Yu Aoqing, and the others, did not linger around and soon left. Jian Wushuang watched the Great Compassion Sect and the others leave without stopping them. After the Great Compassionate's people had left, Jian Wushuang turned around and was about to leave, but stopped abruptly after taking 2 steps. By the way, I remember when I walked out of the tomb, the Great Compassion Sect was not the only sect who wanted to attack me. Jian Wushuang's razor-sharp eyes swept across the remaining sect's experts around. The complexion of those experts instantly turned pale. Even Great Compassion Sect's 3 ultimate gods who stepped up could not do any harm to Jian Wushuang, and were defeated. If Jian Wushuang were going to get even with the other sects, it would most probably end up. Humph! All of you who planned, or had your disciples to do something to me in the tomb when I had a bounty. I remember all of them, so you better think about how to calm my anger. Otherwise, Jian Wushuang sneered, and his laughter made those experts' scalps numb. Jian Wushuang ignored those sects and slowly walked in the direction where Narcissus Island's people were. In the void where Narcissus Island's disciples were located, Elder Lingyi and the seventh elder were trembling. Elder Lingyi subconsciously came forward to greet him upon seeing Jian Wushuang's approach. Jian Wushuang, Elder Lingyi spoke, only to find that Jian Wushuang was not interested in her. He merely walked past her and appeared in front of Elder Wujian. Brother Wujian, nothing happened to my parents, right? Jian Wushuang asked with a smile. His attitude towards Elder Wujian remained gentle, and because he was no longer a disciple of Narcissus Island, he did not address Wujian as an elder. Instead, he addressed Wujian as Brother Wujian, which was also quite cordial. Don't worry, my friend. Your parents are safe, said Wujian. Thank you, Brother Wujian. I'm going back to Anzhou Commandery now. You can let my parents go back too, said Jian Wushuang. All right. Wujian nodded slightly. If you ever come to Anzhou Commandery in the future, you can visit me. Jian Wushuang smiled. Definitely. Wujian was touched. After that, Jian Wushuang glanced at Zhongyi, Su Tong, Wei Qing, Xiaoheng, and the other disciples behind Wujian. He nodded politely and turned around. Big sister, I'm going back to Blazing Moon City now. Do you want to go together? Jian Wushuang asked with a smile. At the ancient star temple, Zhuo Bing immediately stood up. Yes, I haven't been back to see our parents for a long time. Zhuo Bing rushed towards Jian Wushuang. The ancient star temple elders, and Ling Dan did not hold her back anymore. Let's go. Jian Wushuang and Zhuo Bing set off to leave, heading to the Blazing Moon City in Anzhou Commandery. The various sects experts who were present exchanged looks and felt complicated. Especially the two Narcissus Island elders, Elder Lingyi and the seventh elder. After Jian Wushuang walked out of the tomb, Jian Wushuang did not even glance at the two of them, let alone greet or speak to them. We shouldn't have made a decision so quickly. We should have waited longer for Jian Wushuang to come out of the tomb and observe his true strength before making a decision. Elder Ling's face was distorted in anguish. No, the Lord was not wrong in making a timely decision. Only then can Narcissus Island not be implicated. But what we didn't expect is that Jian Wushuang's strength has improved so much after his trip to the tomb. Even the three great compassion sect's supreme elders were defeated by him. The seventh elder clicked her lips. They felt sorry for Narcissus Island. What a terrible loss of a genius. A divine demon who could defeat three ultimate gods at the same time. His combat power might have easily surpassed the Lord of Narcissus Island. Jian Wushuang was still young with huge potential. His future was bright and limitless. How great if such a genius disciple belonged to Narcissus Island. Although Jian Wushuang was only an outer disciple and did not have much sense of belonging in Narcissus Island, if they did their best even if it were only symbolic to help him instead of chasing him out, perhaps Jian Wushuang would have felt very differently towards Narcissus Island. His sense of belonging might even have improved. Sadly, they had sent this superior demon away. Of course, they were regretful. On the side, Elder Wujian sneered. Do you know how stupid the decision was? You are stupid and so is the Lord. You don't even know how incredible Jian Wushuang is, nor try to see his potential before making a decision. What's the point of regretting it now? It's useless. Jian Wushuang no longer belongs to Narcissus Island. Both Elder Lingyi and the seventh elder were even more ashamed after hearing Elder Wujian's words. They could not but feel helpless when they thought of what could have been a better outcome. After Jian Wushuang left, the experts and genius disciples of the various sects on the glade also left one after another. Many sects left in a hurry as Jian Wushuang had made it clear to them. Those sects who had taken action against Jian Wushuang were on pins and needles. They must return to their sects immediately and discuss with their leaders how to deal with this matter. The trip to Saint's tomb finally ended. Chapter 2487. Going home on the way back to Anzhou Commandery. Little brother, did you really defeat those three supreme elders of the Great Compassion Sect? Little brother, how on earth did you cultivate your skills? Father sent me a message a long time ago, saying your sword skill is unparalleled in the world. I didn't believe it much at that time, but now. Zhuo Bing was talking nonstop while walking alongside Jian Wushuang. She was obviously impressed by her little brother's strength. Jian Wushuang was rather patient with his relatives, and hence briefly responded to her questions. By the way, little brother, if the Great Compassion sect hasn't given you an explanation after a month, will you really pay them a visit? Zhuo Bing looked over quizzically. Jian Wushuang smiled. Of course I will, since I have already said so. I will definitely not break my promise. However, the Great Compassionate sect is recognized as the top sect of Wuxia wilderness after all. Its background and strength should not be taken lightly. Zhuo Bing frowned. I know. I've absolute confidence to handle them since I've decided to do so. Big sister, don't worry. I'm not bragging. There may be some experts in Wuxia wilderness who can beat me, but there are almost none who can kill me, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. He was not bragging. His divine body was extremely powerful from being a perfect chaotic creature. He had the perfect immortal body, making it impossible to kill him, even if an undying saint tried to. Generally, the ultimate gods were the strongest in Wuxia wilderness. Even when many ultimate gods combined their strength, they could pose no harm to him since they were unable to kill him. Jian Wushuang knew there was a mysterious expert in the Wuxia wilderness when he mentioned almost none. Taoist Xinshen, the Taoist who visited Blazing Moon City when he was born, calculated his birth chart, and bestowed him the name, Jian Wushuang. If there was anyone capable of killing him in the Wuxia wilderness, Taoist Xinshen would be one of them. We're home. Jian Wushuang was pleased. After journeying for a few days, Zhuo Bing and Jian Wushuang finally arrived at Blazing Moon City. The two immediately went toward the governor's mansion. At the gate of the governor's mansion, whoosh, 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 4 figures flew out of the mansion and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Pleasure to meet Master Jian Wushuang. The 4 of them respectfully saluted Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang studied the 4 people in front of him. Those 4 people were second-class divine demons. They must be the ones sent by Elder Wujian to protect his parents. The 4 had already sent Zhu Yinfeng and his wife to a safe place, but returned to Blazing Moon City due to Jian Wushuang's return. Although Elder Wujian is an elder of Narcissus Island, it's remarkable he can mobilize 4 second-class divine demons based on his personal abilities. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly and immediately waved his hand. 4 interspatial rings appeared in front of those 4 people. Thank you very much for your help. There are a lot of resources in these interspatial rings. Please take them as my gratitude. You may leave and return to Narcissus Island now that I'm here, said Jian Wushuang with a smile. The 4 second-class divine demons took those interspatial rings and took a quick glance inside it. They were overjoyed to discover its contents. Jian Wushuang had killed many genius disciples in the tomb, and among them were many first-class divine demons. He also killed the 5 peak divine demons, such as 2 Qianqing outside the tomb. He was rich from making a fortune out of their belongings. The 4 second-class divine demons were extremely pleased to receive the gifts from Jian Wushuang. Master, well, now leave. The 4 second-class divine demons left soon after. Jian Wushuang and Zhuo Bing stepped into the governor's mansion. As soon as they were in the mansion, Jian Wushuang immediately spotted Zhu Yinfeng and Luo Xinqin, who were welcoming them from the inner courtyard. Father, mother. Zhuo Bing ran over immediately. Binger. Zhu Yinfeng and Luo Xinqin were very happy. Father, mother. I'm home. Jian Wushuang called out gently. I heard from those 4 masters that you've encountered some troubles and was forced to secretly evacuate us. Your mother and I have been worrying about you. Has the trouble been resolved now? Zhu Yinfeng looked over. Almost, replied Jian Wushuang. Father, little brother is amazing. His strength is even more impressive. We don't have to worry about anything with him around. Zhuo Bing comforted. Oh. Zhu Yinfeng looked curious. Don't listen to big sister. She is exaggerating. As long as I'm around, I'll never let my relatives suffer. Jian Wushuang promised. Zhu Yinfeng and Luo Xinqin looked at each other and were quite relieved upon hearing that. Luo Xinqin had figured Jian Wushuang's real origins. She suspected Jian Wushuang might be a reincarnated person. However, whether Jian Wushuang was a reincarnated person or otherwise did not matter to them, as they were content with Jian Wushuang willingly considered them as his parents. Come, let's go in and talk. It so happens Punger sent me a message yesterday, saying he will be back in a few days. We will have a reunion soon, said Zhui Yinfeng. Second brother is coming back? Jian Wushuang raised his brows and a smile appeared on his face. 3 days later, Shuopeng returned from the Ice Fire God Palace. The family had finally reunited and had a family dinner. At the family dinner, Shuopeng told his parents everything that had happened to Jian Wushuang in Saint's tomb. He even asked Jian Wushuang directly, "Third brother, I heard from several seniors at Ice Fire God Palace that you killed a lot of various sects' genius disciples in the tomb, and those sects were angry. However, none of them could do anything to you. Even the ultimate gods who attempted to do so were defeated, right?" Jian Wushuang was speechless. Ultimate gods? Zhui Yinfeng was taken aback and immediately looked at Jian Wushuang. Husband, what are ultimate gods? Luo Xinqin asked. Ultimate gods are super experts in Wuxia wilderness. They are above the divine demon realm. I heard many top sects leaders in Wuxia wilderness, such as Lord of Great Compassion Sect and Lord of Narcissus Island are ultimate gods, said Zhui Yinfeng. What? Luo Xinqin was startled and immediately looked at Jian Wushuang. She was still in shock when she said, Shuanger, did you really defeated those ultimate gods? I merely engaged a few duels with them. It was not as exaggerated as what second brother said. Jian Wushuang touched his nose and smiled lightly. Even then, Zhui Yinfeng and Luo Xinqin were still shocked. My son! Zhui Yinfeng was amazed, but was able to understand after considering Luo Xinqin's speculations. Chapter 2488. The Lord pays a visit. The Lord of Great Compassion Sect, the true leader of the Great Compassion Sect. The three supreme elders, Lei Chong, and Junju, and Fan Jianxian also held extremely high status in the Great Compassion Sect. However, the true and sovereign leader of the Great Compassion Sect was ultimately the Lord. He was also recognized as the strongest expert in the Wuxia wilderness, a genuine high-level ultimate god. The Lord had spent many years in retreat, such that most daily management of the Great Compassion Sect was handed over to the three supreme elders. The Lord had finally returned from his retreat. It happened right after the three supreme elders of Great Compassion Sect were defeated head-on by Jian Wushuang. The true reason for the Lord's return was clear. On the second day of his return, he and the three ultimate gods left Great Compassion Sect and headed towards Anzhou Commandery. News traveled and caused an uproar in Wuxia wilderness. In Anzhou Commandery, hidden in an underground dark palace, several figures headed by Governor Baiyu stood waiting respectfully. Behind Baiyu were patriarchs of the 6 top families in Anzhou Commandery, some of which Jian Wushuang knew, such as Lin Taifeng, head of the Lin family, Zhuge Yuanchong, head of the Zhuge family, and Xiang Zong, head of Xiang family. Those people, including Baiyu, were all waiting for someone. They stood there patiently waiting, with none dared to complain of any dissatisfactions they may have. After a long period of time, a bright light lit up at the palace's center, and a spatial wormhole slowly came into sight. They are here. Baiyu's expression became more alert and respectful than before. The light gradually dimmed and 4 figures stepped out of the spatial wormhole. Among those 4 people was a handsome middle-aged man who was dressed in a loose long robe, apart from Lei Chong and Junju and Fan Jianxian. This middle-aged man had stubbles on his chin and was giving off the impression of someone with a warm personality. I'm Angius Governor Baiyu. It's my pleasure to meet all of you. Baiyu and the 6 family heads behind him immediately bowed and saluted. Are you the governor? The handsome middle-aged man glanced at Baiyu. Baiyu shuddered under his gaze, as if he was fully exposed. Lead me to Jian Wushuang, said the handsome middle-aged man casually. Yes, please follow me. Baiyu immediately led the way. The 6 top family heads were grim and proper. They knew the identities of those 4 people very well. Any one of those 4 people could easily wipe out the 6 top families, and even the entire Anzhou Commandery, with just a wave of their hand. Under the guidance of Baiyu, it took them some time before arriving at the Blazing Moon City where Jian Wushuang was. My lord, this is Blazing Moon City. Jian Wushuang's father is the city's governor. Jian Wushuang is currently staying in Blazing Moon City, Bai Yu reported. The handsome middle-aged man nodded slightly, but his eyes were examining the surrounding void. Haha, quite a few people are here. The handsome-looking middle-aged man faintly laughed, but his voice could be heard throughout the void. Behind the handsome middle-aged man, those three ultimate gods including Lei Chong looked extremely cold. As an ultimate god, his perception abilities were extremely sensitive, and he naturally felt the presence of those people hiding in the void. Most of those people were spies from various sections, some of which were the sect's experts, and even a few sect lords were among them. Oh, that person's here too? The handsome middle-aged man was surprised. As far as his soul power could reach, he could see an elegant green-robed man standing in the void not far away. Behind the elegant green-robed man were Narcissus Island's elders, such as Elder Lingyi and Elder Wujian. The elegant green-robed man was no other than the remarkable Ling Gong, Lord of Narcissus Island. Jian Wushuang was from Narcissus Island. What a pity! The handsome middle-aged man secretly shook his head. My lord, Jian Wushuang is in the governor's mansion. I'll bring him out now, said Bai Yu. No need. The handsome middle-aged man waved his hand and turned serious. Yun Zhen from the Great Compassion Sect is here to visit my friend, Jian Wushuang. A magnificent voice came from the handsome middle-aged man which echoed throughout the entire Blazing Moon City. Anyone who was at any corner of Blazing Moon City could clearly hear the voice. In the governor's mansion, Jian Wushuang's family had gathered together. Jian Wushuang was holding a cup of tea in his hands. When the handsome middle-aged man's voice echoed throughout Blazing Moon City, Jian Wushuang's eyes focused as he put down the teacup. Little brother, Yun Zhen is. Zhuo Bing frowned and looked over. If I'm not mistaken, he should be Lord of Great Compassion Sect. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly. Earlier, he received a message from Wujian about the Lord of Great Compassionate Sect, had come out from his retreat, and was heading over to meet Jian Wushuang. The Lord of Great Compassion Sect, Zhuo Bing, Zhuo Peng, and Zhuo Yinfeng were taken aback. The Great Compassion Sect was the recognized top sect in Wuxia Wilderness. It was not hard to imagine the status Lord of Great Compassion Sect had. Shuanger, Luo Xinqin looked at Jian Wushuang worriedly. He's just a high-level ultimate god, it's no big deal. Father and mother, just wait here for a while. He'll be back. Big sister, second brother, please stay by father and mother's side, said Jian Wushuang. Sure. Zhuo Bing and Zhuo Peng both nodded their heads. They knew they were unable to help Jian Wushuang at all. After Jian Wushuang made the arrangements, he departed towards the void above Blazing Moon City. Two apparitions flashed past, and Jian Wushuang soon appeared before the Great Compassion Sect Lord in the blink of an eye. Jian Wushuang studied the handsome middle-aged man. Is he the Lord of Great Compassion Sect? Jian Wushuang stared at the handsome middle-aged man, while his eyes rolled around in deep thoughts. In any case, he could see the other party was a high-level ultimate god, which is incomparable to ordinary ultimate gods like Lei Chong and Fan Jianxian. Are you Jian Wushuang? That handsome middle-aged man also stared at Jian Wushuang. His eyes were flashing with a strange luster, as he attempted to read Jian Wushuang's expression, but unfortunately failed. Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently. Yes, I am. Is Lord Yun Zhen here to give me an explanation? The Great Compassion Sect is the recognized top sect in Wuxia Wilderness. If you want us to give you an explanation, you must first prove your strength. It's useless even though you have previously defeated the three supreme elders, said Yunjin solemnly. I wonder how Lord Yunjin wants me to prove myself. Jian Wushuang smiled. Chapter 2489. 3 Palm Strikes. Withstand 3 palm strikes from you? Jian Wushuang smiled. He had speculated earlier a tyrannical sect like the Great Compassion Sect would not bow down to him easily. However, the Lord of Great Compassion Sect was more cunning when dealing with issues. He asked Jian Wushuang to withstand 3 palm strikes from him, as a means to test Jian Wushuang's strength. If Jian Wushuang was not strong enough, he would die under the 3 palm strikes, and the problem would be resolved. However, if those 3 palm strikes had neither killed nor injured Jian Wushuang, Yunjin planned on making an excuse to retreat, so as to avoid getting humiliated. One could not help but to admit that, As the Lord of Great Compassion sect who made the sect flourish for many years, Yin Jun was good at dealing with matters. Very well. I'll take on your 3 palm strikes, said Jian Wushuang while nodding. Right here? Yin Jun asked. Sure. Let's do it high up in the sky to avoid disturbing the city below, said Jian Wushuang. Yin Jun nodded. Very well, here comes the first strike. Immediately after his voice faded, a majestic breath of divine powers began to gather within his palm. Everyone around was stunned at that divine power breath was a few times more powerful than a regular ultimate god's. As divine powers gathered to a certain point, Yin Jun's right hand turned into a warm jade before striking forward at the void. The strike seemed so nonchalant, but instantly stirred up a world of its own. Boom! A heaven-shaking energy began forming. A tall crystallized palm that covered half of Blazing Moon City formed out of thin air. The crystallized palm crushed the void and everything it came across before striking directly at Jian Wushuang. When the palm appeared, countless cultivators in Blazing Moon City raised their heads in shock and desperation. If that palm was to strike down on Blazing Moon City, the entire city would turn into ashes. Jian Wushuang was calmly watching that palm striking heading toward him. He shifted his body and swung out with the Blood Mountain sword in his hand. A blurry, almost dreamy sword shadow swept outward. The sword light swept toward the crystallized palm and sliced it apart right in the middle with a shattering noise. A complete trace of sword slash appeared, and the palm was sliced into 2 halves. Large amounts of shattered crystallized divine power began to fan outwards, causing the void to suddenly become very colorful. However, both divine power and sword essence were confined in the skies, therefore not affecting Blazing Moon City at all. It's proven that you have good battle strength, since you're able to shatter the charged palm strike containing 70% of my strength so easily. But watch out for the next one. I'll be using all of my powers. It's an ultimate secret technique that I created myself, said Yin Jun. One, just come toward me. Jian Wushuang smiled with excitement shining in his eyes. Yin Jun squinted as surges of divine power began to gather in his palm again. But this time it was more expanded and powerful than before. A thin layer of red light appeared on the surface of his body, as his palm gradually became blood red. With the power charged to its maximum, the blood-red palm was suddenly sent outwards. Giant devil ape! Yin Jun yelled out sharply. Boom! The heavens and earth shook. The ever-expanding red light lashed out together with the palm and began to crystallize. It formed a huge object in the blink of an eye. It was a several hundred meters tall, fierce-looking giant devil ape. The devil ape had blood-red eyes while swinging its pair of thick, strong arms. Its upward roar caused ripples between heaven and earth, before its body burst straight towards Jian Wushuang. There were terrifying energies pressing against Jian Wushuang. Perhaps even early-stage ultimate gods, such as Lei Chong and Fan Jianxian, would have failed to block such an attack. The Lord of Great Compassion sect is truly a high-level ultimate god. His abilities are truly remarkable. Jian Wushuang was exclaiming in his mind as he watched the giant devil ape charging at him. However, in the next moment, the stellar strength within his body began to violently rise. Using the stellar strength within, Jian Wushuang's energy had surged a great deal, so did his strength, which had also increased immensely. He held tightly on Blood Mountain sword which was making waves of neighing sounds before taking a leap. Jian Wushuang nonchalantly swung the sword sideways. Just a nonchalant swing without sword light or sword shadows bursting out. There were no ripples either. The void in front of him was calm as well. However, under the calmness, ring! A gigantic sword light appeared out of nowhere. The sword light, as if connecting heaven and earth, was extremely bright and captivating. The moment it appeared, it became the core of heaven and earth, the focal point of it. It had even turned eternal. Throughout the oceans and wilderness, heaven and earth aligned. The sword light appeared before the giant devil ape following a string of whipping noises. The giant devil ape roared maniacally and lashed out violently with its 2 arms. Boom! A terrifying rumble suddenly filled the air. The entire void was trembling as shapeless airwaves swirled up and swept in from multiple directions. Finally, the giant devil ape was completely dissolved, and the sword light which Jian Wushuang unleashed had disappeared as well. Jian Wushuang's body shook as he took a small step backward. As for Yun Jun, he did not retreat even a bit since Jian Wushuang was slightly below his skill level. To be able to take my palm strike just now proves you're already above the 3 supreme elders of Great Compassion sect. However, what I'm going to unleash next is my most powerful creation, and also my deadliest strike. It's called Crimson Elephants. Yun Jun's voice was cold as his hands had not even stopped for a while, as he issued his third palm strike, right after Jian Wushuang took his second. Boom! Heaven and earth shook again, as blood mist exploded into the air immediately after that. The entire void above Blazing Moon City had turned crimson, as though it was inside an ocean of blood. Powerful energies were gathered at the center of the blood ocean. A total of 3 gigantic creatures were formed within a moment. This time it was not giant devil apes that were formed, but 3 larger crimson elephants. The crimson elephants were over 100 meters tall, incomparably huge, and were projecting deadly energy from their bodies. After they were formed, the 3 crimson elephants trumpeted loudly before charging fiercely toward Jian Wushuang. Judging from the crimson elephant's momentum, even a mountain would be shattered into pieces, let alone a mere person. Chapter 2490. Sit and talk. Jian Wushuang wore a cold expression as a powerful battle essence surged from his body. With his sword pointing forward, the energy from the endless cycle began to burst out. Hate! 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 The sword lights that swept out were filled with hatred, as it slashed through the void with sword essences, filling up everywhere it passed by, as if charting a way to heaven. 2 secret techniques, 7 Stars Secret Technique and Divine God of Punishment, were mustering in full force and unleashed the most powerful sword technique, which Jian Wushuang self-created. Hateful Path Toward Heaven. Jian Wushuang had unleashed his abilities to its extreme with that strike. In the blink of an eye, a sword light filled with infinite hatred collided with the 3 crimson elephants. Boom! Like the collision of 2 worlds, the boundless blood ocean was almost completely turned over. A pervasive crimson color formed from the terrifying crimson windstorm, shrouded the entire void, where Jian Wushuang was. The various sex experts who were hiding in the surrounding void, and those countless cultivators in Blazing Moon City, gazed intensely at the eye of the crimson windstorm. Yun Jun was also staring at the storm when a strange light suddenly flashed in his eyes. With shattering noises, the crimson windstorm was torn open as a silhouette walked out and appeared before everyone's sight. You're truly the Lord of Great Compassion sect. Your abilities are remarkable. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly and was secretly in awe. He had lost in the last clash. The energies of those 3 crimson elephants were extremely powerful. It had utterly crushed his sword technique and impacted his body. Jian Wushuang's recovery abilities were incredible, hence he did not get seriously injured. However, he was sure that any regular ultimate god experts such as Fan Jianxian or Njunju would be doomed if they took the crimson elephants head-on. The battle strength of a high-leveled ultimate god was truly impressive. Although Jian Wushuang could fend off Lei Chong, Njunju, and Fan Jianxian's joint attack, they were far from being a high-leveled ultimate god. Jian Wushuang was impressed by Yun Jun's ability, while Yun Jun was staring at him intensely. That palm strike of mine has completely crushed his sword technique and directly impacted his body, but he isn't even a bit injured in the end. With such physical defensive capabilities, it won't be enough to kill him even if my abilities were twice as strong. Yun Jun thought to himself. Jian Wushuang, my little friend, you've endured 3 palm strikes from me. Now we can sit and talk. Yun Jun waved his hand as he was speaking, causing a table and 2 chairs to appear in the void ahead. Please. Yun Jun extended his hand. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate. His figure flashed and sat on one of those chairs. Yun Jun sat on the other chair with his eyes gazing at the surrounding void. My friends from various sects, you don't need to hide anymore. Please show yourselves. Following his words, many various sects experts who were hiding in the surrounding void showed their faces. Some were even lords of certain sects as all of them stood in the void around the table. Haha, quite an audience here. Jian Wushuang intriguingly looked at them. His soul had power scanned through all of them, and realized the 4 great ultimate gods of Great Compassion sect, and 2 other ultimate gods, with one of them being Lord of Narcissus Island. The sects that you have gone against certainly are not few. Shall all of us sit down and resolve the issue since they're here? Yunjin said quietly. How should it be resolved? Jian Wushuang looked at Yunjin. We and the various sects are truly in the wrong by provoking you, as you only reacted accordingly. The Great Compassion sect, and all the other sects should naturally apologize to you. In addition, if you have any requests, please don't hesitate to bring it up, my little friend. Well, not decline so long it's within our abilities, said Yunjin. Yunjin was undeniably very sincere. The sincerity shown did not only surprise Jian Wushuang. In fact, the various sects experts including Lei Chong and several supreme elders were equally surprised. The Great Compassion sect was the first-ranked sect in Wuxia wilderness. It had an extremely strong foundation, and had always been extremely high-handed when dealing with matters. Yunjin, as a sect lord, was naturally filled with tricks. However, why did Yunjin suddenly show humility and apologize to the other party? Even though Jian Wushuang had endured his 3 palm strikes, surely it need not have come to that. My lord, Lei Chong, and Junju, and Fan Jianxian secretly sent inquiry messages. I can't kill this Jian Wushuang, and he naturally can't touch me either, judging from his current abilities. He's still far from being a threat toward the Great Compassion sect. However, don't forget how young he's right now. According to the intelligence we've gathered, he's only in his early 20s. He could survive my attacks at merely his early 20s, and a second-class divine demon to boot. Can you imagine what he would have become if given another 20 years? In other words, if he'd make a breakthrough into first-class peak divine demon, or even an ultimate god like you, what will happen then? Yunjin replied to them. Lei Chong, and Junju, and Fan Jianxian fell silent. It was true. What was most terrifying about Jian Wushuang was not the ability he currently possessed, as it was still within the Great Compassion sect's capability to control. It was Jian Wushuang's natural talent, potential, and the fact that he had abilities that allowed him to fight someone several levels higher. If he was already so strong as a second-class divine demon, what would happen if he finally became an ultimate god? The 3 supreme elders were not so foolish to assume Jian Wushuang would never make a breakthrough into the ultimate god realm. On the contrary, Jian Wushuang's breakthrough into an ultimate god was almost guaranteed. In fact, there was a huge possibility of him becoming an undying saint. As soon as Jian Wushuang became an ultimate god, it would be child's play for him to annihilate the Great Compassion sect with his level-skipping abilities. The decision has been made. What we should do is to form relations with Jian Wushuang, and we should befriend him if possible. It's always better to have a friend, rather than a powerful enemy, said Yunjin. The 3 supreme elders agreed, and did not argue further, after listening to his explanation. Next to the table, Jian Wushuang was sitting there, and looking intriguingly at Yunjin. Yunjin's reaction was truly out of Jian Wushuang's expectations, but perhaps because of a lord like Yunjin, the Great Compassion sect could continue to flourish. Chapter 2491. Conditions Instrument Cultivation Materials? Lei Chong, and Junju, and Fan Jianxian looked at each other, and thought it was not a big deal. The Great Compassion sect was able to provide some cultivation materials, of course. I wonder what kind of materials are you looking for? Yunjin asked. 4 portions of red sun secret essence, 5 red blood fruits, 2 drops of purple shimmer, 100 pieces of spectacular beast scales, and 10,000 pounds of celestial iron ore, said Jian Wushuang. The 3 supreme elders were dumbfounded when they heard his request. Various sects experts were also shocked beyond words. Red sun secret essence, red blood fruit, purple shimmer, spectacular beast scales, and celestial iron ore. All of them were difficult to find. Jian Wushuang was asking that much in one go. Boy, are you trying to put us in an awkward position? All of these are rare materials. Don't tell me you're planning to cultivate a heavenly treasure. Even cultivating regular heavenly treasure doesn't require such rare materials, Lei Chong said in anger. I'm not trying to embarrass the Great Compassion sect. I genuinely need those materials, said Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang planned on using those materials to cultivate his life armor. He requested Wu Jian to look for it before, but he could not find any of them. Don't tell me the Great Compassion sect can't even provide some of the materials? Jian Wushuang jeered. Yun Jin pondered for a while before raising his head and said, "Of the materials you asked, we do have celestial iron ore and red blood fruit, and can provide them anytime. As for red sun secret essence, we only have 3 portions, but it shouldn't be hard to find another portion. Spectacular beast scale may prove challenging to obtain. I'm afraid the entire Wuxia wilderness may not even have 100 pieces, but we can use our influence to search for them in other territories. It may take a few months to half a year before we can gather the quantity you asked for. I'm afraid the troublesome one is only the purple shimmer. Can you find it?" Jian Wushuang looked at Yin Jun. He knew that among all those instrument cultivation materials, purple shimmer was the rarest and hardest to find. The Great Compassion sect only has 1 drop of purple shimmer. As for the second drop, I know who has it, but it's not easy to get it from him. However, I'll try my best to ask for it. If I can't get it from him, there's nothing else I can do, said Yunjin directly. Sure. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. 2 drops of purple shimmer was what he needed, but being able to get even 1 drop was quite fortuitous, while the second drop would depend solely on luck. Other than these instrument cultivation materials, I would also need some primordial stones, said Jian Wushuang. Primordial stones contain pure divine powers. Every single one of them had an extraordinarily high content of divine powers. In the market, a primordial stone was comparable to about 10,000 drops of ancient god divine power, and that was purely from a conversion aspect. Primordial stones contained the purest form of divine powers. It was even purer than those 10,000 drops of ancient god divine power. Jian Wushuang had tasted the benefit before in divine power ocean within Saint's tomb, so he wanted to rely on his terrifying absorption speed and tempering of divine powers to raise his cultivation stage. Naturally, he needs to have enough divine powers to do so. Absorbing and tempering divine powers from primordial stones were more convenient and effective than absorbing ancient god divine power. How many primordial stones do you need? Yunjin looked over. Not many, 10,000 would suffice, said Jian Wushuang. 10,000? Yunjin was dumbfounded. Jian Wushuang, how dare you to say that 10,000 primordial stones is not many? Lei Chong immediately roared. Why? Is that a lot? Jian Wushuang looked strange. The primordial stones was a request he made according to his needs. He had just reached the 2nd-class divine demon, and needed a huge amount of divine powers to upgrade himself into a 1st-class divine demon. He estimated that 10,000 primordial stones would be enough to make a breakthrough, hence the request. However, it seemed like he had asked too much. Jian Wushuang, the number of primordial stones you ask for is truly too many. You need to know that the market value for a single piece of primordial stone is equivalent to 10,000 ancient god divine power. Many peak divine demons couldn't afford it even after using up all their wealth. Even though the Great Compassion sect has an extraordinary foundation and is the 1st-ranked sect in Wuxia wilderness, it's impossible to present 10,000 pieces of primordial stones in one go, said Yunjin. Lei Chong was hot-headed and immediately growled coldly. Even when making an offering every millennium to the territorial lord of wilderness, the Great Compassion sect only offers up to 1,000 primordial stones. Who are you to ask that many from us? Shut up. Yunjin glancing at Lei Chong. Lei Chong held his tongue despite feeling furious. Yunjin was quite kind to Jian Wushuang, but that was out of necessity. Normally, he was extremely overbearing to others. Although Lei Chong was a supreme elder, he was still very respectful and fearful of Yunjin. It looks like my requests are a bit overboard, said Jian Wushuang anxiously. Yunjin looked at him again. What do you think about this, Jian Wushuang? There are many sects that have offended you. The Great Compassion sect will discuss with them and offer you 3,000 pieces of primordial stones. The Great Compassion sect could at most only offer 3,000 primordial stones after discussing it with the other sections. If the request for 3,000 primordial stones were solely directed at the Great Compassion sect, It would have been a huge loss. Jian Wushuang nodded. That's fine. I have one last request. Do tell. Yunjun was being very patient. Lord Yunjun would have probably guessed I would be leaving Wuxia Wilderness soon and adventure to other territories. But I'm afraid that as soon as I leave Wuxia Wilderness, the safety of my family could be at stake. Hence, my last request toward the Great Compassion Sect is to guarantee their safety. Otherwise, regardless of what the reasons are, I'll blame the Great Compassion Sect if my family is harmed. Jian Wushuang's voice was frosty. That condition was made to ensure the safety of his family. In the end, he had run-ins with way too many sects and severely injured many of them. Although they were shocked by his abilities and would not do anything up front, those who held grudges might use dirty tactics as soon as he left Wuxia Wilderness. He did not wish to see Zhui Yinfeng and his wife being harmed when he returned next time. Chapter 2493. Territory. Lord Ancient God domain was vast and borderless. Wuxia Wilderness was only a small portion of the Ancient God domain, and was easily ignored. In normal circumstances, only when multiple wilderness combined would a star territory formed. When multiple star territories combined, it then became a domain. For example, Crimson Stone Saint was a domain lord in his mortal life, who established the Crimson Stone Fort, and was in complete control of a whole domain. There were a total of 381 star territories within his domain. A domain lord was a prominent figure in Ancient God domain. Usually, only experts who were an undying saint or above were qualified to become the lord of a certain domain. Although a star territorial lord could not be compared with a domain lord, to be capable of leading so many wilderness would require one to have possessed extremely high abilities. As far as I know, Northern Darkstar Territory has at least 100 wilderness. Our Wuxia Wilderness is merely one of them. Every millennium, sects from each wilderness would honor the territorial lord by offering a certain number of primordial stones, just like how Federalists in mortal worlds would make offerings to their emperor every certain period. Of course, a star territorial lord could be considered an emperor on his own, said Wu Jian. Jian Wushuang nodded quietly. The territorial lord controls the entire star territory, which contains many wilderness sects who made offerings every millennium. The number of sects from the accumulative wilderness were so numerous that those primordial stones a territorial lord received every millennium were huge. A territorial lord must be very powerful to force sects from every wilderness to provide primordial stones tributes with every millennium, right? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course. In the Ancient God domain, almost every star territorial lord is at least an Earth Ultimate God, with some even being Heaven Ultimate Gods, in order for them to keep the entire wilderness under control by themselves. Furthermore, every territorial lord has his official army, which has extremely high battle strength, filled with ultimate gods and divine demons. They are also the territorial lord's means to stay in power, said Wu Jian. Is Earth Ultimate God the weakest within the Ultimate God cultivation level? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. In the Ancient God domain, Ultimate Gods can be further subcategorized to Regular Ultimate God, Earth Ultimate God, Heaven Ultimate, and Grand Ultimate God. The four categories of Ultimate Gods had tremendous strength differences. When one broke through to a new cultivation level, his ability would have fundamental changes. In Wuxia Wilderness, the ultimate gods Jian Wushuang had met were merely regular ultimate gods. For example, the three supreme elders were only at primary level regular ultimate god. The Lord of Great Compassion Sect, Yin Zhen, was only a high-level regular ultimate god. Above high-level regular ultimate gods were peak regular ultimate god. Only after going through that could one have the opportunity to make a breakthrough into the ranks of Earth Ultimate God. In many wildernesses under Northern Darkstar Territory, regular Ultimate God is already the highest rank they could achieve. It's difficult to produce an Earth Ultimate God. Even if one was produced, he or she would choose to wander into the larger territory. They would seldom stay at a star territory to become the local authority. As for this territorial lord, he had the battle strength of an Earth Ultimate God and a powerful official army under him. That's why many sects within the wilderness had to make primordial stones offerings. If he made an order, no one within northern Darkstar territory would dare defy him. Jian Wushuang exclaimed in his mind. Jian Wushuang, you could very well become an Earth Ultimate God since you have such talents. If you are willing, you could also find ways to conquer a star territory and become a territorial lord by then, and enjoy your position as a local authority, said Wu Jian in jest. Haha, we'll see by then. Jian Wushuang laughed. Wu Jian thought Jian Wushuang was only answering him perfunctorily. He had no idea the thought of becoming a territorial lord had begun growing in Jian Wushuang's mind. After all, as soon as one became a territorial lord, one would receive a huge number of primordial stones every millennium, and Jian Wushuang needed primordial stones. However, he knew very well that if he could not even defeat a high-level regular ultimate god, such as Yun Zhen, he was truly far from becoming an Earth Ultimate God. Wu Jian stayed at the governor's residence for 2 days before returning to Narcissus Island. Jian Wushuang did not try asking him to stay. The 3rd day after Wu Jian left one of the Great Compassion Sect's supreme elders, and Junju arrived at Blazing Moon City. These are 3,000 pieces of primordial stones that we and all those sects had gathered. Lord Yun Zhen instructed me to bring you these 3,000 pieces first. As for the instrumental cultivation materials, the Great Compassion Sect will collect them, and Lord Yun Zhen shall personally send them to you, said Junju. In that case, please thank Lord Yun Zhen for me. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. After Junju left, Jian Wushuang found a secret room and sat down cross-legged. In front of him was a collection of 3,500 primordial stones in total, and Junju had sent 3,000, while another 500 pieces were given by Narcissus Island. Jian Wushuang randomly picked up a primordial stone, and a terrifying ingesting power exploded. In a short moment, the pure divine powers that filled the primordial stone were completely absorbed by him. As expected, Jian Wushuang's eyes were twinkling with light. Although one primordial stone's worth on the market is equivalent to 10,000 drops of ancient god divine power, the divine powers contained in it is worth more than 10,000 drops of ancient god divine power. Most importantly, divine powers in primordial stone are a few times purer than ancient god divine power. Hence it helps me quite a lot. A total of 3,500 pieces of primordial stones. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining. The terrifying ingesting power exploded once again as it ruthlessly ingested and refined the primordial stones. His speed of ingestion and refinement was unbelievable. Within a day, he had finished refining all 3,500 primordial stones. The primordial stones had also turned into regular stones with some even cracked. Phew! Jian Wushuang exhaled lightly and gradually opened his eyes. Compared to absorbing ancient god divine power from divine power ocean, absorbing primordial stones is more effective. It's a shame that the number of primordial stones is not enough. Chapter 2494. Strange Old Feng. After the incident, Wuxia wilderness had gradually calmed down. The sects returned to their norm with disciples fighting and wandering around as they usually would. Nothing much had changed in Wuxia wilderness. The only change was the disciples from every sect's admiration toward Jian Wushuang. He was a super demon who forced the Great Compassion sect to bow down to him by relying entirely on his own abilities. During these calm moments, Jian Wushuang spent his days quietly within the walls of Blazing Moon City and cultivating secret techniques. In Saint's Tomb, he made a breakthrough to second-class Divine Demon Realm from Peak Chaotic Realm in an instant. Naturally, some of those secret techniques he was practicing could also be upgraded, but there was no time. Now, he finally had the luxury to begin advancing those secret techniques peacefully. For months passed. Whoosh! A figure floated in the void and hovered above Blazing Moon City Governor's residence as he stopped. My young friend Jian Wushuang. A deep but friendly voice resonated towards the governor's residence. In a short moment, a voice transmitting from within the governor's residence. Lord Yun Zhen is finally here. Please come in. Yun Zhen immediately flew into the governor's residence. In a yard under the willow tree where Jian Wushuang spent his younger days reading various journals, Jian Wushuang and Yun Zhen sat at a stone table and faced each other. There were quality wine and fruits on the table. Lord Yin, you only return after 4 months. I hope you bring good tidings? Jian Wushuang smiled. Yun Zhen turned his palm upwards and presented an interspatial ring he had prepared. As per your request, for portions of red sun secret essence, 5 red blood fruits, 100 spectacular beast scales, and 10,000 pounds of celestial iron Oregon. We had to obtain spectacular beast scales from other domains, hence the long wait. By the way, the 2 drops of purple shimmer, which you requested for. I apologize that I could only find a drop of it, said Yin Zhen. Jian Wushuang took a glance. It was true. Everything was there except for the other drop of purple shimmer. Jian Wushuang frowned. Only a drop of purple shimmer is missing? Didn't you say you know who has the other drop? Don't tell me you couldn't ask from that person with your background and abilities? My young friend, I've already told you that even though I know who possesses it, it won't be easy to get. I tried many ways, but unfortunately couldn't convince him to give me the purple shimmer. Yin Zhen smiled wryly. May I ask who has the purple shimmer? Jian Wushuang asked. He's called Strange Old Feng. Have you heard of him? Yin Zhen asked. Jian Wushuang shook his head. No. If even Lord Yun Zhen can't convince him, I guess he's at least an ultimate god expert? Correct. Strange Old Feng is an ultimate god. Furthermore, one with extremely strong abilities and very hard to deal with. I hear you were in Luogu territory not long ago, so I assumed you probably know the situation over there? Yin Zhen said. Luogu territory? Jian Wushuang's heart was racing. When he heard of the words Luogu territory, the first thing he thought of was the mysterious reincarnated expert, Miss Xiao. The reason he, Xiao Heng, and a few other disciples of Narcissus Island went to Luogu territory was to rescue Miss Xiao. Luogu territory was the most chaotic place in Wuxia wilderness with the highest ruthless killings. Yun Zhen began to explain. There are 9 cities in Luogu territory, with 9 different governors, but the real power that controls Luogu territory are a few reclusive supreme ultimate gods who hide in the dark. Strange Old Feng is one of them. Furthermore, he's an eccentric who's extremely withdrawn. A few genius disciples from the Great Compassion sect were wandering around Luogu territory years ago and carelessly had a run-in with him. He cut off all their limbs and hung them up the city walls before torturing them to death. When we learned about this occurrence, Supreme Elder Lei Chong personally went to seek justice for those disciples, hence the start of enmity between Strange Old Feng and us. Moreover, our hatred only grew stronger following multiple conflicts. In the end, I had to personally intervene and lead our 3 Supreme Elders to attack him. But he was incredibly fast and very good at staying alive. The 4 of us were cornered and couldn't kill him. We came to a stalemate, and since it wouldn't do us any good if the fight continued, we stopped fighting. After that battle, we never took initiative to cross each other again. However, our hatred didn't get resolved. According to our intelligence, the purple shimmer is in his possession. Recently, I have personally gone to look for him and try to convince him many times. I went to the extent of offering something of the equal value, and even something of a higher value than the purple shimmer. Unfortunately, he didn't agree. Yin Zhen looked helpless. He had truly done what he could, but Strange Old Feng was relentless. Really, Jian Wushuang finally understood. The 2 parties already had hatred towards each other, but since neither of them could hurt the other, they were forced to stop fighting. Unlike Jian Wushuang and the Great Compassion sect, who completely cast aside their grudges. In a situation as such, it would be normal for Strange Old Feng to not hand over the purple shimmer to his enemy. Lord Yun Zhen, since this is the case, would Strange Old Feng exchange the purple shimmer with me if I personally look for him? Jian Wushuang smiled. Well, I can't say for sure. Strange Old Feng is a peculiar one, and you can't predict him, as you do with a normal person after all. If you find him personally, he may or may not hand it to you. What's worse is that he could just kill you. Of course, you don't have to be afraid of Strange Old Feng with your abilities. I'd say give it a try, said Yin Zhen. In that case, could you come with me? Jian Wushuang asked. Not a problem. When would you like to go? Yunjin agreed heartily. Shall we go now? Jian Wushuang smiled. After he informed Zhu Yunfeng, he and Yunjin began their journey to Luogu territory. There were 9 cities in Luogu territory, with each of them humongous and filled with experts. Following Yunjin's lead, Jian Wushuang arrived at one of the cities. Is strange old Feng living in the city? Jian Wushuang squinted and spread out his soul power. Chapter 2495. Crazy old man. The city was huge, hence Jian Wushuang's soul power could only cover a small area, and did not manage to find any aura of an ultimate god expert. Strange old Feng has a strange way with things. I've just inquired, and it seems like he's currently in a fighting arena, said Yunjin. Jian Wushuang got slightly excited before nodding and said, A fighting arena? Lord Yin, I would like you to wait here while I'll go meet him. If he's willing to exchange the purple shimmer with me, it will save a lot of effort. If he's not, I'll have to ask you to fight alongside me and force him to hand it over with our overwhelming abilities. No problem, answered Yunjin very heartily. Helping Jian Wushuang to obtain the second drop of purple shimmer was to honor their agreement. Yunjin naturally had to help. Jian Wushuang entered the city and soon arrived at a gigantic fighting arena in the city center. The arena was so wide and looked boundless enough to fit 1 million audiences. There was a big gymnasium in the center with 2 chaotic divine demons engaging in an intense fight. The fights in Luogu territory's fighting arenas did not stop until death occurred. It was insane, as the fight would only end if one of the experts died. It was because of that the fighting arena attracted a lot of experts to attend. There were countless experts sitting around the gymnasium while shouting and growling in a frenzy. Among them was one especially passionate person. It was a dirty old man who was clad in torn black robes, incredibly messy hair, and dirt-covered body, as if he was a beggar. Haha, my disciple, go. Kill him off. Don't mess around with him, just twist his head off. Press him down, press him down. Don't make me lose face. The dirty old man's voice was the loudest and most piercing one, making a lot of people look at him. Jian Wushuang spotted the dirty old man immediately the moment he entered the fighting arena. Is he strange old Feng? Jian Wushuang squinted slightly. Judging from his looks and actions, the dirty old man did not look like an expert at all. However, Jian Wushuang's senses were clearly telling him that among those cultivators in the arena, that dirty old man was the only one who possessed an incomparably strong aura. He was obviously an ultimate god. As for those 2 people fighting in the gymnasium, the one who was tall and muscular seemed like strange old Feng's disciple. He sends his disciple to fight to his death in an arena. Doesn't he worry about his disciple getting killed? Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. He could tell that strange old Feng's disciple was only a second-class divine demon. His battle strength was normal and not considered strong. His opponent was also a second-class divine demon. At the moment, it was hard to predict who would survive the fight. However, luck seemed to side with strange old Feng's disciple as he narrowly won. His opponent's head was blasted open, but his shoulder was pierced through by a 3-finger attack, leaving behind 3 bloody holes and a very pale face. Haha, you won. You won again. Strange old Feng was overjoyed and looked extremely crazy. At one corner of the arena, the face of a chubby and greasy middle-aged man turned gloomy. Supervisor, this guy has won 3 games consecutively, and those who lost to him are our resident divine demons. That crazy old fart who screams like a banshee is probably his master. He bet a lot of ancient god divine powers on his disciple before every game. We're suffering a big loss with just these 3 games, said an assistant in black respectfully to the supervisor. How much did we lose? Asked the supervisor coldly. The crazy old fart bet 1,000 drops of ancient god divine powers during the first game. After he won, he bet another 2,000 drops for the second game, then 4,000 for the third. We've lost 7,000 drops of ancient god divine power to this crazy old man alone. And that doesn't include the other bets, said the assistant in black. The supervisor was not happy. 7,000 drops of ancient god divine power. Doesn't that equate to the entire savings of a lesser peak divine demon? Watch them both. Kill them right away as soon as they leave the arena. Bring back all the ancient god divine powers which we lost in their interspatial ring. Yes. The assistant in black went on to oversee the arrangement immediately. Running a huge fighting arena in one of Luogu territory's 9 cities meant terrifyingly high profit. However, the high profit did not just come from obvious gains. It also included some shady businesses in the dark. For example, the 7,000 drops of ancient god divine power was enough of a reason to do said shady business. Soon after, strange old Feng left the fighting arena with his disciple. Not long after exiting the fighting area, on the streets, whoosh, 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 more than 20 figures surrounded them. Master! The disciple was startled. He was only a second-class divine demon, while those who appeared before them were divine demon experts. Among them, there were 6 second-class divine demons, and a first-class divine demon. Old fart, you'd better give up all the ancient god divine power you have won in your interspatial rings. Then we'll let you live, ordered the first-class divine demon. Haha, isn't it true that there's no such thing as free lunch? However, you're very foolish to rob me. Strange old Feng scoffed. Whoosh! His black figure flashed and disappeared. A second later, he was back to where he stood. The disciple looked around confused as he found around 20 people, which included those 6 second-class, and a first-class divine demon, collapsed together on the ground. Their blood spilled everywhere. The disciple was shocked at first, but became overjoyed right after. He knew that he had studied under the right teacher. His master was absolutely an earth-shattering super expert, who was perhaps a peak divine demon. No, probably even stronger. Let's go, kid, said strange old Feng. The disciple nodded and followed his master. However, strange old Feng stopped once again after taking 2 steps. Strange old Feng raised his head and saw a young man carrying a sword on his back standing on the streets ahead with his arms crossed, and walked toward them. There's more of them? Strange old Feng felt slightly surprised. His soul power briefly scanned their surroundings, but did not find another person's existence. Moreover, this person before him looked very young, but he could not see through him. That surprised strange old Feng even more. Finally, the young man went up to him. Greetings, Senior Feng. Jian Wushuang greeted humbly. Chapter 2496. Doing it the hard way. Who are you, kid? Strange old Feng looked at Jian Wushuang with his weird evil eyes. Doesn't matter who I am. I'm just here to make an exchange with you, Senior Feng, said Jian Wushuang. What kind of exchange? Strange old Feng asked. I hear you have a drop of purple shimmer. I would like to exchange for it. I hope Senior Feng is willing to give it to me. I'll of course exchange it for something of equal or even higher value, said Jian Wushuang. Strange old Feng's face turned cold. Purple shimmer? Hee. Yun Zhen from Great Compassion sect came to look for me, and wanted it as well not long ago. Unfortunately, I didn't agree. He wanted it but couldn't get it, and now he's playing with his little tricks, and asking a kid like you to exchange for it. Haha, does he think I'm an idiot? No matter what tactics he uses, the Great Compassion sect can only dream about getting the purple shimmer from me. I'd rather destroy the purple shimmer than handing it to them. Jian Wushuang panicked and said, Senior Feng, I'm not from the Great Compassion sect, and am in no way related to them either. Hee. Do I look like I care if you're related to them or otherwise? No matter what, I won't give the purple shimmer to anyone. Only thing is, kid. Strange old Feng shot a glance at Jian Wushuang as his eyes shined with a discreet but sharp glint. I don't like your face, so you must die. A wind blade immediately formed from nothing in front of strange old Feng. In a flash, the wind blade disappeared, and in the next moment, it appeared before Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang had not expected strange old Feng to suddenly attack him, as his face turned gloomy. Furthermore, strange old Feng performed a deadly move immediately, without worrying about his status as an ultimate god expert. However, it was not a threat to Jian Wushuang with that impromptu wind blade. Jian Wushuang merely raised his hand, gripped the wind blade and shattered it. Oh! Strange old Feng was surprised. Second-class divine demon? Strange old Feng's disciple looked over in shock. When Jian Wushuang was fighting, he concealed his divine power aura. Hence nobody would sense his actual cultivation level. As Strange old Feng started a fight with him, his second-class divine demon's divine power aura had been revealed. You're a mere second-class divine demon, yet you could easily fend off my attack? Interesting. Strange old Feng smiled weirdly, but his expression suddenly changed. Oh, by the way, I heard rumors of a monster in Wuxia wilderness defeating 3 supreme elders of great compassion outside Saint's tomb, being only at the cultivation level of divine demon realm. After that, he even endured 3 direct palm strikes from Yunzhen, and forced the Great Compassion sect to lower their heads. That monster is also good at sword principles, and is very young. I guess that's you? Yes, it is. Jian Wushuang immediately admitted. Haha, it's really you. I think I remember your name. Something like Jian Wushuang? Strange old Feng giggled. That's correct. So I take it that you understand I have nothing to do with the Great Compassion sect. As for the purple shimmer, it is me who wants it. I'm only forcing the Great Compassion sect to get it for me. I wonder if you are willing to exchange the purple shimmer with me now? Jian Wushuang asked. In his mind, Strange old Feng had deep grudges against the Great Compassion sect, and the fact the Great Compassion sect suffered a great loss under Jian Wushuang would have meant he helped Strange old Feng let off some steam. In addition, the purple shimmer was not useful to Strange old Feng. Strange old Feng should probably be willing to exchange it with him. However, hell no. Strange old Feng directly waved his hand. Kid, whether or not you have a relationship with the Great Compassion sect has got nothing to do with me. The purple shimmer is my possession. It's my freedom whether I want to exchange it or not, and now I don't want you to have it. But if you can of course insist on having it. However, there's one condition. What would that be? Jian Wushuang was still calm inside. It's very simple. You knew I have beef with the Great Compassion sect. Although you've killed many of its disciples, the effects toward their sect aren't strong. I want you to seriously hurt Great Compassion sect once by, for example, killing one of their supreme elders or something. Strange old Feng grinned devilishly. You want me to kill a supreme elder from the Great Compassion sect? Jian Wushuang squinted. That's right. A supreme elder is worth a drop of purple shimmer. If you do so, you don't need to exchange anything with me. I'll give you that drop of purple shimmer directly. What do you say? Strange old Feng smiled. Jian Wushuang, you can take your time to think about it. After all, you have pissed them off once, and they couldn't do anything to you. There's no reason you can't do it again if that's the case. Jian Wushuang said. My grudge with the Great Compassion sect is already over. Plus I've made peace with all the other sections. I'm not like you. I do care about my status as a person. If the Great Compassion sect doesn't cross me again, I won't attack them. Is that so? Then I can't help you. That drop of purple shimmer will always stay in my interspatial ring, hee. Even though it doesn't do me much good by keeping it, just watching you suckers scratching your heads over it makes me happy. Strange old Feng began to giggle. Looks like it's impossible to have a fair trade with you. Jian Wushuang's eyesight began to turn frosty. He did not plan to fight as Strange old Feng was an ultimate god after all. If the joint attacks of Yunzhen and his 3 supreme elders could not even defeat him, he was not one to be taken lightly. Jian Wushuang knew it was wise not to cross him. Hence he was being polite and humble throughout. Naturally, it would be best if Strange old Feng was willing to exchange. However, Strange old Feng was not willing, hence Jian Wushuang had employed more forceful tactics. Now you want to do it the hard way since the easy way didn't work? Who do you think you are? Strange old Feng was not afraid at all, while he looked at Jian Wushuang in ridicule. It's not possible if I'm the only one doing it, but, Jian Wushuang smiled. What if I joined in? A grand deep voice suddenly filled the air. Yunzhen's figure suddenly appeared in the void. Oh Yunzhen? You guys seem prepared. Strange old Feng's expression darkened as well, but felt no fear. Strange old Feng, hand over the purple shimmer. I'm still willing to exchange it for something more valuable. If not, I'll have to attack. Don't forget your disciple is right here. Aren't you worried I would kill him? Jian Wushuang's voice was cold and slightly threatening. Chapter 2497. 1,000 feet Divine God, did you say kill my disciple? Strange Old Feng smiled menacingly. Master, don't worry about me you. Strange Old Feng's disciple had just spoken, but his eyes popped out in surprise before he had finished speaking. A dry old palm had penetrated his body with a terrifying force and completely crushed his internal organs. The disciple's expression was one of disbelief as he fell to the ground. You actually killed your own disciple? Jian Wushuang's face showed consternation. Strange Old Feng is cruel and vicious. He has been alone. How could he possibly want a disciple for real? He probably treats his disciple like a toy collected at will, said Yinzhen. Strange Old Feng waved his palm and said with a wicked laugh. Hee, Yinzhen sure knows me best. Now that no one's in the way, let me see how powerful the most heaven-defying divine demon in the history of Wuxia wilderness. His body was surging with an aura that only ultimate god experts could possess while speaking. His breath of power carried a hint of malice that engulfed the entire place. Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed slightly. Just considering the breath of power alone, Strange Old Feng's aura was stronger than the 3 supreme elders of the Great Compassion sect, but was a far cry from a high-level ultimate god such as Yunzhen. He has reached peak early-stage ultimate god realm. Jian Wushuang concluded on Strange Old Feng's strength. Strange Old Feng made a move. A blast of cold wind swept across the sky at a terrifying speed. After Strange Old Feng went at full speed, he did not swoop in the direction where Jian Wushuang was to everyone's surprise. Instead, he turned and ran away. Running away? Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold, and his figure immediately sprang out to chase after Strange Old Feng. Haha, I'm not stupid to contend with both of you at the same time. There was a peal of loud, unbridled laughter from Strange Old Feng. This old thing is very cunning. Yunzhen's face sulked as he went after Jian Wushuang to kill Strange Old Feng. The 3 of them were extremely fast. Not long after they were outside the city. Jian Wushuang, I've dealt with Strange Old Feng before. His current speed is already amazingly fast, but he still has a life-saving secret technique. Once he uses it, his speed will rise to another level, which enables him to shake both of us off from pursuing after him, said Yunzhen. It shouldn't be easy for him to cast that technique, right? Jian Wushuang asked in a low voice. Well, it's not easy, but if he has no choice, he'll do it, said Yunzhen. We shall not give him the chance to perform it then. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold as he chased after Strange Old Feng alongside Yunzhen. Suddenly, 2 holograms lurched forward at the same time, and Jian Wushuang's speed increased and surpassed Yunzhen. The distance between Jian Wushuang and Strange Old Feng was getting closer. Is Jian Wushuang that fast? Strange Old Feng noticed the movements behind him and was surprised. It's space-time apparition, and there are 2 holograms. No wonder. However, he's alone, so even if he catches up to me, he can't do anything. Strange Old Feng was not bothered. He was also not in a rush to cast his life-saving secret technique. The distance between Jian Wushuang and Strange Old Feng was getting closer, with Jian Wushuang's eyes also getting colder. Finally, Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a severe glare. It's the time! Buzz! Majestic golden divine power condensed abruptly behind Jian Wushuang. In a blink of an eye, it turned into a huge golden god shadow. The golden god shadow was different from the one he cast 4 months ago. 4 months ago, Jian Wushuang used the divine god of punishment secret technique and formed a 900 feet tall golden god shadow. For the past 4 months, Jian Wushuang stayed in Blazing Moon City and worked hard to improve the powers of those secret techniques he had. The golden god shadow he formed now had exceeded 1,000 feet. 1,000 feet golden god shadow. It represented the 2nd level of the divine god of punishment technique, and should not be taken lightly. The current golden shadow, compared to 4 months ago, was a whole new level with its power at completely different levels. Under the amplification of golden god shadow, Jian Wushuang's breath of divine power soared before his big hands shot forward and clapped. Prison of punishment, rumbling. Golden divine power shot out madly from the golden god shadow in all directions as it spread across the entire space and blotted out the heavens, and covered the sun's strange old Feng, was not far in front of Jian Wushuang, as he rapidly fled. However, no matter how fast he could not match up to the golden divine power's speed. In an instant, the vast golden divine power had surpassed him, and condensed into a golden barrier at the void in front of him. A huge golden prison took shape. Both Jian Wushuang and strange old Feng were trapped within the golden prison. Strange old Feng was nervous, but soon let out a cold snort. A dark red spear appeared in his hand. The dark red spear carried an infinite amount of evil spirits. It turned into a swift and violent lighting from being enveloped by the tyrannical divine powers of strange old Feng, as it thrust fiercely towards the golden barrier. Bang! There was a loud noise. A spiral pit the size of a water bucket appeared on the golden barrier. But the spear did not penetrate the golden barrier. This prison is so hard. Strange old Feng was surprised. He did not know one of the 5 most powerful secret techniques of the 7 stars black sex. The divine god of punishment was extremely powerful and famous. For months ago, Jian Wushuang condensed only a 900 feet high golden god shadow, and the prison formed was not something an ordinary ultimate god could break away. Outside Saint's tomb, the 3 supreme elders of the Great Compassion sect were trapped in the prison of punishment, and Lei Chong had to use the thunderbolt bead, which he paid a great price to refine, just for blasting a hole through the golden prison. The thunderbolt bead exploded, and the power it emanated alone was equivalent to a high-level ultimate god's power. When the golden god shadow had reached a height of 1,000 feet, the prison of punishment's powers had also increased by a huge amount. Even a high-level ultimate god as Yun Jun had to use his strongest move just for attempting his luck to puncture a hole in the golden prison. Strange old Feng was only at the peak early stage ultimate god. It was impossible for him to break the golden prison. Chapter 2498, Compromised Humph. After a cold snort, a second dark red spear appeared in strange old Feng's other palm. He was holding 2 spears and gathering streams of terrifying divine power in his hands, as he rifled both spears swiftly towards the golden barrier. Bang! 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 The spears drove towards the golden barrier over and over again, hitting the same spot 13 times. The pit that appeared on the barrier before gave way under the impact, and began expanding in size, but at the same time, it was recovering at an astonishing speed. After receiving attacks from strange old Feng, the pit reverted to its original appearance, and was still rapidly recovering. What? Strange old Feng frowned. It's useless unless you can tear it down with a single blow, or blast a hole through it. Otherwise, no matter how much impact you applied, it'll instantly recover. You can't escape. Jian Wushuang explained with a cold voice, as his figure appeared behind strange old Feng without warnings. A grim and forbidding sword intent swept up. Jian Wushuang kept a cold and distant look. The Blood Mountain sword brandished at will in his hand. Sword light filled the space as a sea of swords formed in an instant and inundated strange old Feng. Strange old Feng turned around immediately with his 2 spears emanating evil spirits. He decided to confront Jian Wushuang head-on. Jian Wushuang was extremely powerful. Although he had not used the 7 stars secret technique, his divine powers were much stronger than before from absorbing 3,500 primordial stones. He also had the 1,000 feet golden god shadow behind him. Those sword lights spread out with each being extremely powerful and fast. This kid is strong. He's only a divine demon, but his combat prowess is no lesser than mine, and perhaps even stronger than me. Strange old Feng's face got uglier, as both of them engaged in a battle. All of a sudden, Jian Wushuang's figure briefly stopped. The next moment, he dived steeply down with the Blood Mountain sword in his hand evolving into a long snake. There were harsh clattering sounds as the void was torn apart like a piece of paper, with everything being dissolved into emptiness. It was soundless and stirless with no traces of anything, except for a sword shadow that swept past. Space-time sword technique third form, pure shadow. It was a sword technique created during his enlightenment from Fengtian scroll in Saint's tomb. But Jian Wushuang never used it before when he fought against the Great Compassion sect's ultimate gods. It was time for the pure shadow technique to show its powers. Clang! With loud clanging sounds, the spears in Strange Old Feng's hands skewed slightly when collided with the sword shadow. The sword shadow was like a phantom, as it went straight towards Strange Old Feng's body. A layer of dim black light flashed on the surface of Strange Old Feng's body, in the form of a heavy barrier. Bang! Strange Old Feng was sent falling back while Jian Wushuang stood firm in place. Strange Old Feng has strong self-defensive abilities. I'm surprised my sword did not hurt him. Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed as he muttered to himself. Jian Wushuang. Yunjin finally arrived, entered the golden prison with Jian Wushuang's permission, and appeared next to him. This prison? Yunjin examined the golden prison around him, and was amazed by its power. He speculated it would be hard for him to break out of the prison if trapped within it. Strange Old Feng, you have nowhere to escape. Just hand over the purple shimmer. Otherwise, Jian Wushuang's cold voice echoed in the golden prison. Strange Old Feng replied angrily. Jian Wushuang, there are no grudges between us, but you have ill feelings for the Great Compassion sect in Yunjin. All you want is the purple shimmer. Both of us should join forces and use your domain to teach Yunjin a lesson. The purple shimmer will be yours after you help me fight against him. Yunjin was irritated. I've already said before, the conflicts between me and the Great Compassion sect have been resolved. I will not attack them. I shall take it by force since you are unwilling to hand me the purple shimmer. Lord Yunjin, let's attack together, said Jian Wushuang. All right. Yunjin nodded. Haha. So what if you both team up? So what if there's this golden prison? You can't kill me even if I'm unable to escape. Strange Old Feng laughed arrogantly. We can't kill you? Really? Jian Wushuang smiled. The moment he finished his sentence, the golden divine power's pressure went down on Strange Old Feng. The prison of punishment was made up of prison and domain. Prison traps the opponent and domain oppresses them, while improving the user's powers. The power of one party depletes while the other gains, widening the strength gap. This technique was manifested to its fullest with Jian Wushuang's 1,000 feet golden god shadow. What? Strange Old Feng's figure sank. Although he was an ultimate god expert, and had reached peak early stage ultimate god, his power had been reduced rapidly under the golden divine power's pressure. His strength had dropped by nearly 20%. It was an awful percentage of power depletion to him. Go! Jian Wushuang commanded in a low voice, and attacked alongside Yunjin. He had chosen to discharge his 7-star secret technique's power, and his divine power breath skyrocketed, and was approaching the level of the first-class divine demon realm. Boom! Boom! The two experts delivered their shots at the same time. Jian Wushuang's sword skills were perfectly displayed, whereas Yunjin was being overbearing. His big hands swung out again, and again with each palm print turned into a giant ape, brown bear, tiger, and leopard interchangeably every time he drew his palm. Every palm was derived from extremely powerful and ferocious animals. The combat power of high-level ultimate god was fully displayed by Yunjin. As for Jian Wushuang, he relied fully on the support of elevated powers from the Golden Prison's domain, and had soon attained combat powers equal to that of a high-level ultimate god. It barely achieved that level of power, as he was still slightly inferior compared to Yunjin. However, he was much stronger than Strange Old Feng, especially when Strange Old Feng's power had been decreased by 20%. It was a complete showdown. Strange Old Feng had no room to repel the attacks, and could only rely on his physical protection abilities to resist the attacks. It would not last long, and soon, he would give way as his body reached the limit. Strange Old Feng had no means to escape while being trapped within the golden prison. His life-saving secret technique could not be used either. Strange Old Feng was nervous. Stop. Stop. Jian Wushuang, don't you want the purple shimmer anymore? Okay, I'll give it to you. Strange Old Feng screamed as he obviously had no choice but to compromise. Chapter 2499. Killed. Strange Old Feng waved his hand as a hazy purple light was thrown towards Jian Wushuang. The purple light was a grain of purple shimmer, with a peculiar aura. Although it was like a grain of sand, it was actually the size of a pea. Purple shimmer. Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up, waved his hand, and sent the drop of purple shimmer into his interspatial ring. Jian Wushuang was done collecting all the materials needed to refine his life armor with that. All he needed to do next was to find Master Kuan and ask for his expertise to refine that armor. Jian Wushuang, I've given you the purple shimmer. Can you let me out of this golden prison now? Strange Old Foam called out. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes at Strange Old Foam before immediately shook his head. Sorry, but no. What did you say? Strange Old Foam was startled. If you were someone else, perhaps I will let you go. But you're cruel. You even killed your own disciple. What else can you not do? You gave the purple shimmer to me because you have no other choice. But once you escape, you'll probably retaliate against me. Even if you can't retaliate against me, you will retaliate against my family, and that's troublesome for me. I'll have to kill you then since I've provoked you, and not leave such a risk behind. Jian Wushuang wore a ghastly look. Strange Old Foam was cruel, unruly, and despicably. He dared to madly retaliate against the great compassionate sect. What more towards Jian Wushuang? Jian Wushuang was sure that Strange Old Foam would seek vengeance with him thereafter. Lord Yunzhen, well, join forces to kill him, said Jian Wushuang coldly. Haha, sure thing. Yunzhen nodded without hesitation. The Great Compassion Sect had wanted to kill Strange Old Foam for a long time, but lacked the abilities and chance to do so. How could Yunzhen possibly let go of a perfect opportunity that lay in front of him? Kill! Jian Wushuang and Yunzhen delivered their shots again. They no longer held back and went in for the kill. Jian Wushuang, you didn't keep your promise. Strange Old Foam was very frightened and kept screaming. Promise? Haha, if you choose to give the purple shimmer at the beginning I wouldn't have hurt you. But now, you should just go to hell. Jian Wushuang's killing intent shot up and combined the high-level ultimate god's combat power from both Jian Wushuang and Yunzhen. Strange Old Foam could only retreat further and further as his injuries became more and more obvious. Eventually, his body had reached the limit of how much it could resist. Buzz! Strange Old Foam's body collapsed, and his voice completely gone. Finally, he's dead. Yunzhen sighed lightly after seeing Strange Old Foam being killed. The Great Compassion Sect has tried to kill him many times, but his life-saving ability is so great that we failed countless times. He's finally dead this time. Thank you, friend Wushuang. Your prison is indeed amazing. Yunzhen knew the Golden Prison had greatly contributed to their success in killing Strange Old Foam. Had it not been for the Golden Prison which trapped Strange Old Foam, he would have used his life-saving secret technique to escape. Jian Wushuang also murmured, the life-saving ability of this old monster is indeed strong. Apart from his life-saving secret technique, his Buddhist defensive abilities were also powerful. Ordinary early-stage ultimate god would have died much earlier under our combined attacks. But he persevered for quite some time. Anyway, he's dead now. Wushuang, my friend, Strange Old Foam is dead, and you have received the last drop of purple shimmer. The Great Compassion Sect has fulfilled our promise to you. There are still many things to deal with in the Great Compassion Sect. I shall leave first, said Yunzhen. Thank you, Lord Yunzhen. Jian Wushuang smiled. Although Jian Wushuang was not sure whether the Great Compassionate Sect still held grudges against him, the two sides had apparently resolved their conflicts. Unless one party decides to fall out, there should be no more fights between them. All the instrument cultivation materials have been collected. I'll go directly to Master Kuan in Luogu territory. Jian Wushuang chuckled and left for Qingxiao City, one of Luogu territory's 9 cities. As soon as Jian Wushuang arrived at Qingxiao City, he thought of Miss Xiao from 100 Flowers Tower. After Miss Xiao vanquished the Mu clan, she left Wuxia Wilderness, and no one knew where she went. Regardless, there was a verbal alliance between him and Miss Xiao. They might meet in the future. A towering and grandiose mansion floated above the void. It was none other than Master Kun's residence. Jian Wushuang had been there before. He had to use some tactics before being allowed to enter and meet Master Kuan. Jian Wushuang went straight into the mansion with an apparition, such that the guards did not notice his existence at all. A bald elder in an exquisite room was none other than Master Kuan, who wore a black robe and was carefully browsing a jade slip. Suddenly, a light breeze blew, and a figure appeared in the center of the room. Who? Master Kuan was alerted and raised his head. Master Kuan, long time no see. Jian Wushuang folded his hands behind him and smiled. You are. Master Kuan looked at Jian Wushuang in a daze. He was unable to recognize Jian Wushuang, although Jian Wushuang looked rather familiar to him. Master Kuan, do you remember a chaotic divine demon who came not long ago and asked for help to cultivate a life armor? Jian Wushuang smiled. Life armor? Are you Jian Yi? Master Kuan finally figured who Jian Wushuang was. The last time Jian Wushuang visited Master Kuan, he was wearing a hat to cover his appearance. Hence Master Kuan did not recognize him at first glance. It's my pleasure that Master Kuan still remembers me. Master Kuan, do you remember the agreement we had? These are the instrument cultivation materials which you mentioned. Please help me to cultivate a life armor. Jian Wushuang handed over an interspatial ring. Master Kuan took the ring and looked into it only to be shocked. 4 red sun secret essences, 5 red blood fruits, 2 drops of purple shimmer, 100 pieces of spectacular beast scale, and 10,000 pounds of celestial iron organ. You have managed to gather all of them, and in such a short time. Master Kuan was flabbergasted. He knew very well how rare those instrument cultivation materials were in Wuxia wilderness. There were 5 types of materials, and each of them was priceless. In addition, they were required in rather large quantities, such that even for a top sect such as Narcissus Island, it would be impossible to gather those materials. Master Kuan had not considered Jian Wushuang would be able to collect all of those materials. However, if Master Jian's blood essences do not meet the necessary requirements, Master Jian's life armor will be of low level. Master Kuan was a little nervous. Don't worry, there will be no problem with my blood essences, said Jian Wushuang with a smile. Master Kuan opened up the furnace and began the cultivation process. Jian Wushuang was standing in the chamber and did nothing else other than closely watching Master Kun's cultivation skills. Instrument cultivation skills were a profound knowledge. Jian Wushuang had not done much research into it, but he did not want to miss the scene where a 4th-grade craftmaster cultivated a life armor. Jian Wushuang watched Master Kuan open the furnace before using a special method to draw extremely high-temperature liquid lava into the furnace and filling it up. The liquid lava was no ordinary volcanic liquid lava. It was one that had existed for at least millions of years, and with the highest temperature from its core. It was collected by Master Kuan at a great cost, and especially used for instrument cultivation. Next, Master Kuan began throwing some materials into the furnace. At first, Master Kuan put in some celestial iron, ore and spectacular beast scales into the furnace. Later on, he added 1 part of red sun secret essence and a stalk of red blood fruit into the furnace. The purple shimmer was the only thing he did not put into the furnace. Time passed very quickly, and more than 10 days had passed. Over the past 10 days, Jian Wushuang was closely watching the entire cultivation process. Suddenly Jian Wushuang frowned. Failure. An explosive sound came out of the furnace as those materials that had dissolved, integrated, and formed into the shape of a battle armor shot out of the furnace. Those materials were no longer usable. Sigh. Master Kuan sighed. He was not surprised as he had not expected to be successful on his first attempt. He spent half a day restoring his divine power and physical state before Master Kuan attempted it for the second time. The second time was a lot more proficient than the first, and the whole process was much faster. Nonetheless, those materials were crushed into powder on the 9th day, and the second attempt had also failed. After his second failure, Master Kuan was not discouraged at all. Instead, there was a gleam of determination in his eyes. So this is how it is. Master Kuan must have figured out a lot of things in his first 2 attempts. He was enthusiastic on the 3rd try. Master Kuan, are you confident with the next try? Jian Wushuang asked. Don't worry, Master Jian. I've already figured out all the cultivation steps. I'm more than 70% sure on the 3rd attempt. Master Kuan was very confident. Chapter 2501. Life Armor completed. Master Jian, please be ready to feed the life armor some of your blood essences, said Master Kuan. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded. Soon Master Kuan began his third attempt. This time around, he had perfected the steps and made no mistakes. Another 10 days passed in a blink of an eye. Master Kuan, who had been focusing on cultivating the life armor by the furnace, had both his eyes lit up in excitement. The life armor is completed. Jian Wushuang looked over immediately. He could vaguely see a battle armor in the middle of the furnace within the hot liquid lava. The life armor was just taking shape, but yet to have its own wisdom. Master Kuan then took out the purple shimmer. In his last 2 failures, he had not used the purple shimmer at all. He had only taken the purple shimmer out after the life armor took shape. The purple shimmer was like a finishing touch to the life armor. The life armor seemed to have instantly come to life when Master Kuan sent it into the furnace. The life armor gave away a unique aura. This life armor has wisdom now. Master Jian, come here and let it absorb your blood essence, said Master Kuan. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate and walked towards the furnace. How much blood essences are needed? Jian Wushuang asked. Generally, it takes a lot, but also depends on the blood essences ratings. Take your time, Master Jian. Just put in drop by drop, and well judge according to the situation, said Master Kuan. Jian Wushuang nodded. He stretched out his index finger and squeezed a drop of blood into the furnace. The blood essence dripped into the furnace and was instantly swallowed by the hot liquid lava, but there were no changes in the furnace. A single drop of blood essence probably won't give rise to any reaction. Master Jian, try dropping a few more drops. Master Kuan suggested. Jian Wushuang frowned. The higher the life rating, the harder it was to accumulate and extract their blood essence. It was extremely difficult for people of the ancient race to accumulate and extract their blood essence. Jian Wushuang, being a perfect chaotic creature, would naturally have a hard time accumulating and extracting his blood essence. Try a few more drops. However, he only had a few drops of blood essence. Just when Jian Wushuang was about to squeeze the second drop of blood essence, buzz! The huge furnace suddenly shook, and the hot liquid lava in the furnace began boiling wildly and surged around violently. What's going on here? Master Kuan was taken aback, as he did not know what had happened. Right then, a strong golden ray of light lit up. Master Jian stepped backward. Master Kuan screamed and immediately retreated. Jian Wushuang retreated a few steps. At the same time when he retreated, the huge furnace spar burst open as hot liquid lava flew out madly in all directions. Jian Wushuang's divine powers erupted and formed a barrier in front of him to block the hot liquid lava on the other side. Explosion! How could it possibly explode? The life armor had already taken form. Master Kuan, who was next to Jian Wushuang, was talking loudly. No! Master Kun's eyes glistened again, because he saw the golden light floating at the chamber top. The golden light was extremely bright, and within the rays of golden light was a completed life armor. The life armor was neither damaged nor exploded. Nonetheless, the furnace had indeed blown up. Besides, the aura of this armor is so strong. Master Kuan stared hard at the life armor basking in the golden light. He could feel the aura emanated from the life armor was very powerful. Its aura was much stronger than many natural treasures. Even the top-notch natural treasures had a subservient aura toward it. It has become an extraordinary natural treasure, has it not? Master Kuan was startled. Master Kuan, what should I do next? Do I continue squeezing blood? Jian Wushuang asked. Blood essence. Master Kuan seemed to have understood something, but still had doubts in his heart as he stared at the life armor for a while and said, Try another drop. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate and immediately squeezed another drop of blood essence, sending it towards the life armor. The life armor instantly swallowed the drop of blood essence. Then, boom! The life armor was already extremely powerful and had a much stronger aura than any natural treasure. Yet its aura skyrocketed again by several folds more than before. Next, the life armor gave off an aura that countless experts would covet. and at the same time was shining with a colorful glow. Even though the chamber was located underground, it failed to stop the widespread aura and colorful glow. In an instant, there were colorful clouds illuminating heaven and earth in the void above the chamber. The aura of a precious treasure permeated for thousands of miles. Colorful clouds? This sort of colorful clouds only appears when a heavenly treasure is born. Is this an anomaly of heaven and earth? How is this possible? Master Kuan was completely stunned. He could not even believe he made the life armor. It was a heavenly treasure. A heavenly treasure that was highly sought after by any ultimate god expert was successfully cultivated. Most importantly, he had cultivated that life armor. What's a life armor? It was something closely related to the cultivator, and was a progressing treasure. Its powers increased simultaneously with the strength of its cultivator. Under normal circumstances, any newly cultivated life armor, or life divine weapon would be at the ordinary power. Its power was seldom able to match ordinary earth treasures. However, the life armor he cultivated was at the level of a heavenly treasure. What just happened? It's like two cultivators. One was just an ordinary man when he was born, while the other was a chaotic divine demon upon birth. How were they even comparable? A life armor that attained the level of a heavenly treasure right after it was successfully cultivated would have an extremely bright future. Its powers would grow along with the power of its master, and might even become a legendary premier treasure. Premier treasures only existed in the legend. Master Kuan had only seen it in ancient books. He still could not believe that he had made a precious life armor that could potentially be a premier treasure one day. How did this happen? Master Kun's eyes were glistening as he looked at Jian Wushuang. Was it because of Master Jian's blood essence? Yes, it must be Master Jian's blood essence, Master Kuan concluded. He knew fully well that based on his cultivation skill, and those instrument cultivation materials, the life armor would not have reached the level of an earth treasure under normal circumstances. Hence, it must be the 2 drops of blood essence which Jian Wushuang inserted that upgraded it to be a heavenly treasure. Chapter 2502. Golden Glaze Life Armor. This life armor is able to reach the heavenly treasure level with just 2 drops of blood essence. What kind of blood essence is that? Master Kuan was astonished. Jian Wushuang, who was standing beside, had also felt the aura emanating from the life armor. A wide smile appeared on his face. Judging from the aura, this must be really powerful. Master Kuan, should I continue dripping blood essence into it? Jian Wushuang asked. Master Kuan was startled. He took a serious look at the battle armor, and then shook his head. No, Master Jian. Your blood essences are extraordinary. Merely 2 drops of your blood essence have pushed this life armor to its endurance limit. Another drop of blood essence might immediately destroy it. Jian Wushuang nodded and stopped putting in more of his blood essence. Master Kun's eyes flashed as he waved his big hand, and sent several palm prints in the direction of the life armor. It's done. After he solemnly announced the end of the cultivation, the golden light finally dissipated. The life armor, which was enveloped by the golden light, descended from floating in the void. Without any guidance, it floated towards Jian Wushuang. It was Jian Wushuang who fed it his own blood essence after all. It had become a heavenly treasure with unlimited potential. The life armor certainly knew who its owner was. After Jian Wushuang tried the life armor on, the armor immediately bonded with him. Oh, this little guy is still acting like a baby to me. Jian Wushuang smiled at it with great interest, after he had established a connection with the spirit of the armor. Master Jian, the armor is done but it hasn't got a name. Why don't you think of a name? Master Kuan suggested. Name. Jian Wushuang gently stroked the armor in front of him. The armor was golden in color with its extremely smooth surface which exuded a faint metallic luster, like a shimmering phantom. Let's call it Golden Glazed Life Armor. Jian Wushuang smiled. The armor responded happily to its name with a slight quiver. Using his mind to control, the Golden Glazed Life Armor immediately turned into golden light, which covered Jian Wushuang's body. In an instant, Jian Wushuang's whole body was completely covered by the armor. It was very delicate, beautiful, and fitted seamlessly on Jian Wushuang's perfect figure. Jian Wushuang stood majestically like a golden god of war. Jian Wushuang then started moving around, and the golden battle armor, covering his body, immediately transformed into an exquisite golden robe. Haha, not bad. Jian Wushuang laughed, obviously very satisfied with the golden glazed life armor. Not only was he satisfied, but he could also feel the armor's power. The golden glazed life armor at the heavenly treasure level had terrifying physical protection capability. Jian Wushuang did not have time to cultivate the 9 sparkle star armor, hence his overall strength would increase significantly after he did so, and the golden glazed life armor's prowess would then be fully displayed. Oh yes. Jian Wushuang was reminded of something. Master Kuan, I have a life divine weapon with me. Jian Wushuang waved his hand and took out his blood mountain sword. This weapon has been with me for many years, but it didn't absorb my blood essence when it was being cultivated. I have also not been able to feed it with my own blood essence. I wonder if you can temper it again and figure out a way for it to absorb my blood essence? Jian Wushuang asked. Jian Wushuang could feel the Blood Mountain Sword's excitement in his hand as he spoke. Blood Mountain Sword was his closest comrade. It had been with him since his last life till the current. In his last life, Jian Wushuang's life rating was only average. He was able to occasionally feed the sword with his blood essence. In his current life, the Blood Mountain Sword was no longer able to absorb his blood essence after he became a perfect chaotic creature. Master Kuan was quite surprised. This is your life weapon, but it hasn't absorbed your blood essence before? Show me the sword. Jian Wushuang handed the Blood Mountain Sword to Master Kuan. Master Kuan cautiously took over and brushed his fingers along the blade. He went wide-eyed. Good sword, this. It's perfect. This sword, regardless it's the external look or internal structure, was done perfectly in every cultivation step without any flaws. This is my first time seeing such a perfect weapon. Master Kun's heart skipped a beat. In the cultivation process of a weapon, subtle errors such as heat, the quantity of materials used, and so on were inevitable no matter how careful the craftmaster was. However, those minute errors gave no impact on Jian Wushuang. There were craftmasters with extraordinary abilities that enabled them to cultivate divine weapons without a single error. Those types of craftmasters only existed in legends, and were at least 7th grade, or even 8th grade craftmasters. For a 4th grade craftmaster such as Master Kuan, this perfect weapon was a myth. Who's that? Master Jian Wushuang. Who's the craftmaster who cultivated this weapon? Master Kuan asked in an electrified tone. Master Kuan, you don't have to know who made it. You only have to tell me whether you are able to help me, said Jian Wushuang with a smile. Master Kuan pondered for a moment before answering seriously. I've never seen the materials used to make this sword, but there might be a possibility to recultivate it and feed your blood essence to it. The bad news is that a 4th grade craftmaster like myself is unable to do so. Master Kuan helplessly smiled. A 4th grade craftmaster was the top craftmaster in the Wuxia wilderness, but in the entire ancient god domain, 4th grade meant nothing. There were craftmasters who were much stronger. Master Kuan was unable to fulfill Jian Wushuang's request. Is that so? Which grades of craftmasters are needed to meet my requirements? Jian Wushuang asked. At least a 7th grade craftmaster, but the craftmaster at the peak of 7th grade might still fail. Hence an 8th grade craftmaster might stand a much better chance of success, said Master Kuan. Peak of 7th grade or an 8th grade craftmaster? Jian Wushuang was shocked to find out. In a small place like Wuxia Wilderness, it was difficult to even find a 4th grade craftmaster. Jian Wushuang found Master Kuan after much effort. Someone at the peak of 7th grade, and the 8th grade was still too far-fetched for Jian Wushuang. You heard that, little guy. You'll have to wait for a little while longer to absorb my blood essence. Jian Wushuang helplessly stroked the Blood Mountain Sword. Chapter 2503. 9 Sparkle Star Armor Secret Skill. Blood Mountain Sword quivered slightly and seemed dissatisfied, but was nonetheless helpless. Master Jian, these are the remaining instrument cultivation materials from cultivating the golden glazed life armor. There is still a drop of purple shimmer, but a lot more red sun secret essence, red blood fruit, spectacular beast scales, and celestial iron ore. Again, you'll probably need these materials in the future. Master Kuan handed the remaining materials to Jian Wushuang. In fact, was it someone else who asked for his favor to cultivate a weapon or an armor, he would have kept the remaining materials for himself. However, he dared not do the same to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang nodded and accepted the remaining materials. He then took out another interspatial ring and said, "Master Kuan, this is a small gift for you. Thank you for helping me with the cultivation of my life armor." There were a lot of resources and treasures in that interspatial ring. It was the ring that Jian Wushuang got after killing strange old Feng, and after splitting the gains with Yin Zhen. It was definitely more than enough to pay Master Kuan. However, Master Kuan shook his head and refused. No, Master Jian. It's an honor for me to be able to cultivate your life armor, especially when it's such a rare piece at the ratings of a heavenly treasure right after being cultivated. How could I take any reward from you?" Master Kuan was telling the truth. He never thought he would be able to personally cultivate a life armor, which was as precious as a heavenly treasure. It was his highest achievement throughout his life in the cultivation of weapons and armor. This achievement was worth much more than any reward in the world. Just take it. You have worked so hard for such a long time after all. You shouldn't be kept busy for no reason. Besides, your furnace has broken in the process of cultivating my life armor, said Jian Wushuang. Master Kuan refused a few times, but finally accepted the ring. Jian Wushuang's eyes were shining with seriousness. Master Kuan, there is one matter I have to make clear with you. I hope you can keep to yourself about my heavenly treasure life armor, and the fact about my blood essence. Never mention it to anyone in the future. Otherwise, I won't tolerate such behavior. Master Kuan knew Jian Wushuang was serious. His face changed as he felt shivers up his spine. Merely 2 drops of Jian Wushuang's blood essence were capable of making the life armor to reach the heavenly treasure rank. It was simply incredible. There was no doubt Jian Wushuang had a big secret. Jian Wushuang would face countless troubles if this news spreads among public ears. You can rest assured, Master Jian. I promise to never say anything about cultivating this life armor. I can also take a heavenly oath today. If I break my promise, I shall immediately die from a demonic heart attack, said Master Kuan. Jian Wushuang raised his brows and felt relieved. Master Kuan, I want to stay in this chamber for a while to cultivate a secret technique. I wonder if it's feasible? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course, I'll personally stand guard to protect you and never allow anyone to disturb you, said Master Kuan. Thank you, Master Kuan, said Jian Wushuang with a smile. Master Kuan soon left and Jian Wushuang was the only one remaining in the chamber. He found a place and sat cross-legged. My life armor is ready. Next is for me to start cultivating the 9 sparkle stars armor. Jian Wushuang muttered as he slowly closed his eyes. 9 sparkle stars armor was one of the 5 most powerful secret techniques of the 7 Stars Black Sect at its peak. The secret technique was as famous as the 7 Stars secret technique and the divine god of punishment. In his eternal chaotic world last life, Jian Wushuang saw the scenes where Emperor Bai used the 9 sparkle stars armor. As soon as the technique was executed, Emperor Bai's strength instantly skyrocketed. Moreover, the environment of the eternal chaos world was bad. Emperor Bai had gone through a lot of erroneous variants and extremes before finally managed to cultivate the secret technique. However, he was unable to fully manifest the power of this secret technique. During the ancient god domain period of time, Jian Wushuang had a chance to display the secret technique in its complete form. It was a pity if one would like to cultivate such a secret technique. One must have a life armor connected to one's body and blood. Jian Wushuang did not have the golden glazed life armor previously. Even if he had the cultivation method of the secret technique, he could only look at it but not use it. There were a total of 6 chapters in 9 Sparkle Stars armor secret technique, with each representing 6 different levels. The chapters consisted of the black armor, golden armor, precious armor, heavenly armor, stars armor, and the highest level of all, ultimate armor. Emperor Bai first cultivated golden armor, which was the secret technique's second level. Jian Wushuang had now begun looking into the first level, which was the Black Armor chapter. With his life armor and Jian Wushuang's astuteness, he was able to easily cultivate the Black Armor chapter. Inside the chamber, Jian Wushuang's body quivered as a streamer of black light appeared outside of the armor he was wearing. The black light, which completely covered Jian Wushuang's body like battle armor, was extremely adamant. Jian Wushuang seriously murmured, "I have the golden glazed life armor on me. I now have an extra layer of physical protection ability with the black armor and golden life armor integration. But 9 Sparkle Stars armor secret technique shouldn't be so simple." Jian Wushuang summoned his Blood Mountain sword and thrust it forward. With that simple move, he clearly sensed the power of his sword light was affected by the black surface on his body. The power of his sword light had increased exponentially. The sword light cut onto the void, causing the void in the chamber to quake. "The power of my sword has doubled. Well. Jian Wushuang was overjoyed. 9 Sparkle Stars armor was a secret technique that integrated both attack and defense. The defense mechanism complemented the life armor by strengthening the life armor's protective capabilities and formed an extra body protective barrier at the same time. Whereas the attack mechanism was a result of the star-guided attack mechanism derived from the secret technique. It amplified the powers of any attack performed by Jian Wushuang. In the Black Armor chapter alone, he was able to double up the power of his various attacks. The second level, which was the gold armor of the 9 Sparkle Stars armor secret technique, supposedly boosted his power by 3 folds. The third level, Treasure armor, boosted it by 6 times stronger. The fourth level was 9 times stronger, and it went on with the remaining levels. If he was fortunate enough to cultivate the final 6th level, Ultimate Armor chapter, his power would then be increased by 15 times under the Ultimate Armor's guidance. That was the 9 Sparkle Stars armor, one of the 5 most powerful secret techniques of the 7 Stars Black Sect. It's terrifyingly powerful. The 9 Sparkle Stars armor is terrifying indeed. No wonder it's as famous as the 7 Stars secret technique and Divine God of Punishment. Jian Wushuang exclaimed. He had also cultivated another secret technique that integrated both attack and defense mechanisms. The Primordial Void Celestial Body. Not only does the Primordial Void Celestial Body increase one's divine bodhi's strength, but also one's divine power's strength. However, one that simply increased the divine power's strength was incomparable with the other, which greatly increased attacking power. Chapter 2504. An important guest. The second form of the Primordial Void Celestial Body, which merely increased Jian Wushuang's divine powers by 3 folds, did not help much in increasing his attack powers. It was because he had to convert the divine powers into the attack powers before manifesting it. Such power conversion reduced the power's efficacy and finally resulted in only about 30 to 40% of an increase in Jian Wushuang's overall strength. As for 9 Sparkle Stars armor, the star-guided attack mechanism directly intensified the attack power, which Jian Wushuang manifested. His overall strength was doubled up, hence the 2 techniques were incomparable. The black armor alone has doubled up my overall strength. I can try to cultivate the gold armor with my current realm level. Jian Wushuang was electrified. He began to sit cross-legged and continued meditating upon the gold armor chapter. Time flew, and half a month passed in a flash. Jian Wushuang was still sitting in the chamber when suddenly a layer of bright golden light appeared on the surface of his divine body. The golden light was like a gold armor covering his entire body. Jian Wushuang had his eyes closed while his Blood Mountain sword quivered in his hand. A bloody sword shadow intent swept across the entire area and instantly filled the chamber with an ocean of sword intent. A shrill sound resonated across the chamber. It's done. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes. He could not contain his excitement, which was shown through his shining bright eyes. The gold armor chapter has been cultivated. My attack power has increased by 3 times from the gold armor's guidance, which means that my overall strength has also increased by 3-fold, Jian Wushuang murmured. Tripling his overall strength was undoubtedly a huge improvement. Before Jian Wushuang cultivated the 9 Sparkle Stars armor secret technique, his combat prowess had already surpassed the early stages of Divine Demon. His combat prowess was close to a high-level ultimate god, but still not enough for him to engage in a duel with Yin Zhen. With his overall strength increased by 3 times, Jian Wushuang would be able to fight against Yin Zhen. Although it was still uncertain if he could defeat Yin Zhen, he knew he was sufficiently strong to be a threat toward Yin Zhen. On the other hand, there was absolutely no hope for Yin Zhen to defeat Jian Wushuang. The only reason why Jian Wushuang was not absolutely certain over winning Yin Zhen was that Yin Zhen might hold a trump card. If nothing was hidden, Jian Wushuang was confident he could defeat Yin Zhen in a duel based on Yin Zhen's combat prowess at the time they besieged and killed Strange Old Feng. It's a pity I'm only in the Divine Demon realm. The highest level I can cultivate the 9 Sparkle Stars armor is at the Gold Armor chapter. If I can proceed to the 3rd level, which is the previous armor chapter, not will it improve my overall strength, but upon full achievement, I'll be able to manifest the special techniques in 9 Sparkle Stars armor. Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. Some powerful secret techniques were accompanied by special action techniques. For instance, the Divine God of Punishment had 2 special action techniques: Prison of Punishment and Extermination of Criminals. Both were killer moves. The 9 Sparkle Stars armor also had special techniques, but its threshold was higher. Only after cultivating the Treasure Armor chapter could one its first special technique, the Star Armor Domain. The Star Armor Domain was initiated by the Star Armor itself. Not only was the domain power extremely terrifying, but also had no conflicts against any other domain methods. Jian Wushuang imagined the day when he crossed over to the ultimate god realm, achieved a breakthrough in his swordsmanship, and gained control over a sword world. He will first subdue his opponent with the sword world, before applying both Prison of Punishment and Star Armor Domain on his opponent. That action would be equivalent to 3 great domain techniques superimposed on his opponent. How strong would its effect be? Unfortunately, he was still very far from his aspirations. Anyway, my life-saving ability has improved greatly with the 9 Sparkle Star Armor secret technique. My overall strength has also increased by 3-folds. It's a great overall achievement. At least my efforts to source for instrument cultivation materials to make the life armor didn't go to waste. Jian Wushuang smiled, feeling pleased. He was happy to have cultivated the Gold Armor chapter. His happiness did not last long. Zhuang'er, his father in his current life, Zhuo Yinfeng sent him a message. "Father, what's the matter?" Jian Wushuang answered while trying to suppress his joy. "Zhuang'er, please come back quickly if you are free now. We have a special guest at home," said Zhuo Yinfeng. Special guest? Jian Wushuang was startled. Jian Wushuang had proven his extraordinary strength, to which elevated his status. He was no longer inferior to many people, and even the lords of many sections. Zhuo Yinfeng was fully aware of that. Under such circumstances, who could possibly be considered as a special guest to him? "Father, who's the guest?" Jian Wushuang asked curiously. "It's Taoist Xian Shen," Zhuo Yinfeng answered solemnly. Jian Wushuang's eyes widened. "Taoist Xian Shen, the one who arrived at Blazing Moon City after I was born, and gave me the name Jian Wushuang upon careful calculation of my birth date?" For Jian Wushuang, Taoist Xian Shen was the only person in Wuxia wilderness which Jian Wushuang was curious and envious of. However, Jian Wushuang did not see Taoist Xian Shen as his enemy. Taoist Xian Shen showed up once when I was born, and gave me my name before disappearing. I have never heard from him all these years, and he miraculously appears again at this point in time. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. "Father, do you know why Taoist Xian Shen visited?" Jian Wushuang asked. "I don't know, but he's here for you. After arriving at our mansion, he bluntly said he wanted to see you and told me to send you a message," replied Zhuo Yinfeng. "I got it, father. Please ask Taoist Xian Shen to stay for a while. He'll be back soon," said Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang dared not neglect the mysterious and unpredictable Taoist Xian Shen. He thought the Taoist might even know everything. After Jian Wushuang got the news, he rushed home as quickly as possible. Not long after, Jian Wushuang had returned to the governor's mansion in the blazing Moon City. In a large greeting hall, Zhuo Yinfeng and Luo Xinqin were seated there with a few servants standing right behind them. As for Zhuo Bing and Zhuo Peng, they had returned to their respective sects long ago. Beside the hall was a barefooted old man in a plain green robe with white hair and a beard. His eyes were squinted while sitting there waiting. On a chair beside the barefooted old man was a piece of canvas with the characters, psychic and fortune-telling. Is he Daoist Xian Shen? Jian Wushuang walked into the hall, saw the barefooted old man at first glance, and was rather amazed. Looking at the barefooted old man, Jian Wushuang was fascinated as he was unable to read that old man at all. Just as Jian Wushuang had thought, the barefooted old man was unpredictable like an infinite ocean. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and headed towards the old man. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.